All right, looks like we are live. Let me change one thing real quick. I'm getting a feedback on my side that you're not hearing. Let's see here. Okay, so that should be good. So there's about a 30-second delay, give or take. I want to check to see if you all are hearing me. Do me a favor, go ahead and let me know if you can hear me. I will be able to see your chats live. There's going to be a slight delay between you'll see me responding to them. So let's see. Do you guys hear me okay? Back on my side that you're not hearing. Let's see here. And then we'll get ourselves going here. The fun things about being live. Yay, all right. I see somebody saying loud and clear. I'm seeing yes. All right, fantastic. All right, well, first of all, I want to say good morning to everybody. This is our High Altitude Balloon Challenge live stream. We're very excited. We are running a little bit behind, which is what happens anytime you have a live event. Indiana is walking out right now with the payload boxes. They have the balloons ready to be inflated. We're probably about a half an hour before the balloons will actually launch. So let's use some of that time to our benefit. And hear you, but echo large. Got us in Pennsylvania. Let's see. You shouldn't be hearing an echo anymore. Are you guys still hearing an echo? Lots of feedback. Let's see here. I wonder why you're getting feedback. Let's see. All right. Let's see here. Beauties are going live. So I wish the feedback was almost immediate so I could get more feedback from you guys. Are you guys still getting a lot of echo? Oh, okay. Oh, that's true. I have my headphones in and I can't hear the laptop. Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. All right, let me do this. Let me get rid of this over here because I don't need it. And then that will free us up. All right. Massive feedback is phone on also. You're still hearing feedback. Let's see. That is muted. Let me mute this. This was already muted, but let me go ahead and mute it. It's already muted. Huh. Still an echo, huh? Let's see. Let me see if I can change something here. Let's see. Mike, I'm going to put that to monitor and output. Let's see. Desktop, monitor only. Desktop only. Okay. Let's see if that works. Okay, I'm seeing none in Pennsylvania, no echo here, there is no feedback, it's been fine, user issues. Okay, all right. All right, it works. I'm happy about that. Then let me turn this back off because now I have an echo in my ear. So hang on. We're going to figure this out. Mic, and now I'm going to say monitor off. All right, very good. All right. Yay, and I see we have our screen going here, so let me go ahead and pin them. Oh, there we go. All right, let's start over. So, yes, estimated launch is now at 11:25 Eastern. But so it gives us about 25 minutes. Let's go ahead and we can actually keep an eye on the what's going on out there. Let's do that while we talk for a second. There they are. Very cool. All right. Now, first of all, I'm super happy that we are able to be live stream again. We have, there's the cap airplane if you look up there. Matter of fact, I can show you. There's the cap airplane. They've been circling for a while, so they're going to probably continue circling for the next 20 minutes. So very cool. So let's talk a little bit about what we've got going on. All right. So for those that don't know, maybe you're watching this live stream, you subscribe to the channel. Maybe you're not even a CAP member. Maybe you don't even know what CAP is. So Civil Air Patrol is a tower of pillar of the United States Air Force. We are a volunteer organization. We perform lots of functions, emergency services, aerospace education, cadet programs. And so what we have here is a kind of a combination of all three. So the program is being run by Aerospace Education. I am an aerospace education officer here in Greenville, South Carolina. And we have the emergency services side, because today we're going to have air crews. We're going to have 3 ground teams. We're going to have SUAS. If you're not from CAP, you don't know what an SUAS is. That's basically a drone team. We're going to have lots of ground team members that are probably going to be climbing through the soy fields and corn fields when these come down. We are, again, like I mentioned, we are live. Oh, there's the drone there. That's one of the drones. Very cool. So we have a lot of folks that are involved in this program every year. And I think that we've got about 125 units from Civil Air Patrol that sent in little vials, little 40 millimeter vials, milliliter vials that have experiments in them. And we're going to see what those look like in just a little bit. Those experiments are going to be in these packages. If you look at the ground there, it was just off to the left. Oh, that's great. They can hear me. That's great. I can't hear them, but because I have them turned off at the moment. But I can hear. They must be able to hear me because they're showing what I'm talking about. So this is the box that's going to go up. It's connected to a camera pod. We're looking at the parachute there. A Snoopy. We are launching Snoopy. Last year we launched a Lego space shuttle. This year we are launching Snoopy. We have the parachute, which is absolutely of no value to us at high altitude. But we'll see as it's coming down. We'll see that it slowly starts to inflate. It'll slowly start to open up. There is Susan Millette. I know lots of folks hear Susan Millette's name a lot. And there's Susan. And let me see if I can get some audio from them. Hang on one second. Let me see if I can get some audio. All right, great. Yeah, I can hear you now too. How are you guys all there? All right. Well, hang on a second. I can hear you, but they can't hear you. So hang on one second. Let me figure out what's going on with that. All right. Advanced. Ba-dum-ba-dum. All right. We're going to say monitor and output. And we're going to say monitor and output. All right. Let's try that again. Can you hear me? You guys can hear me, but I don't think that they can hear you. All right, check 1, 2. Okay, that should fix that. Sorry about that for everybody on thing. So, all right, we're doing good. So far, I see that we've got 116 folks that are online watching. That's great. All right, so what I'm going to be able to do, folks, is I'm just going to relay you. Hopefully, in about 10 seconds, I'm going to start getting messages online saying that you can hear me. If you shout louder, maybe you'll hear us. All right, there we go. All right, so they can hear me now. All right, great. So, Liz, I'll be able to relay what you're saying, and then maybe a little bit later, we'll be able to figure out what's going on, why I can't get the audio to patch through. I haven't had that issue before. But like everything live, everything happens the first time when you're live. All right, let's see here. So, again, somebody was talking about the CAP airplane. We can go ahead and show that real quick. And that's over here. Yeah, they've been circling and circling and circling. Very excited by that. And so hopefully they can circle for about 4 hours. If they're still circling after 4 hours, we've had some other issues on the ground. So, all right. So now that we've kind of got the ground crew there with the camera, let's go ahead and talk a little bit. So what I would like to do is let me go ahead and I want to get rid of. Yep, I can hear you, Liz. Yep. I wish you all could hear me online with what they're saying. So let me relay that. And actually, what Susan Millette was just on the air for me in my ears, and what she was letting me know is that she sent an email out to all the squadrons, letting everybody know. And let me get you guys back on here, letting everybody know that all of the payloads, like each unit, whichever balloon you were in, she sent a list out. Now, what I did is I actually went ahead because somebody online mentioned what program you're using. Does it happen to be OBS? It is OBS. And I'm fairly good with OBS. So I don't know that I'm going to be able to maybe if there's something you can think of, I can read and I can take a look at real quickly. But I'm usually pretty good with OBS myself, so I use this quite a bit. So I'm not sure. I think it's something going on with the routing of the audio. So anyways, so I actually, in the description of this video, I actually copied and pasted all of the units and which balloons they were in. So this way you can either get it directly, the spreadsheet directly from Susan's email address. If you don't have access to that for whatever reason, you're not on the mailing list for say, you're a cadet, you want to look it up and maybe you're not getting it, then we will, in the description, you can look up your unit and you'll be able to see that there. Okay. Yep, so these are all the test tubes in Balloon 1. Okay, and Liz is taking a walk over right now to the box 2, so Balloon 2. And there we go. And then Liz, when you're done showing box 2, let's make sure we show Snoopy. Okay. And here we go. Here's if you're in box 2, here's box 2 for you. Which is very good. Now, I do know that I am actually, even though we might have some complications with the audio, I am actually really excited. Last year, we didn't have a live stream. I actually went on site, and the plan was to try to do some extra video footage and interview staff. And I can tell you that this is just much better. I really, while it's nerve-wracking because you could have technical problems, I do this once a year, so I don't really get a chance to test this out too much. But there's Snoopy. So astronaut Snoopy is going up. So about 100,000 feet. Very cool. All right, very good. Liz, if you can, let's see, that's probably Brandon. So this is Brandon. Brandon works for Near Space Education. Now Brandon is really our liaison. So Near Space Education is responsible for all of the launch itself. So they provide the tracking equipment, they provide the parachute, the balloons. They help to connect everything to the payloads. They are really just a fantastic group. I know that a lot of times there's conversations about if you wanted to have a launch yourself, what would it take? And people put together these really expansive programs, which is fantastic. If you want to do all the electronics and if you want to do all that, that's fantastic. But just know that if that scares you and you don't really want to get into all that, you can reach out to like a company like Near Space Education. There's other companies around the country that can come in and that you can contract with that'll help you do these launches. And they have just a lot of experience. They have all the gear. Let's see. Shouldn't he select Zoom as the application? Yeah, Zoom. We're using Teams, but same difference. It's not showing up in the audio mixer for some reason. And I'm afraid that if I play with it too much right now, that I might mess up something else. It looks like we are starting to inflate the first balloon. So that's great. So we are probably about 15 minutes away once the first balloon starts getting inflated. So a couple things that people ask quite a bit. Are we using helium or hydrogen? We are not using helium. We are using hydrogen. And so there is a big debate sometimes that we get into. And those of us that have been doing launches for a while, we kind of don't want to get into the debate anymore. But if you are somebody that's looking to do this yourself, helium is very expensive. And for a long time, I'm not sure if it still is, but for a long time, for the first couple of years, helium was in really short supply. And you don't want to use the helium that you would get like a party supply store. This is a different kind of helium. This is not helium, this is hydrogen. So what happened is when helium became very scarce, we went ahead and we started using hydrogen. Now, people think of hydrogen as, hey, the Hindenburg, or let's say helium. They think of helium and hydrogen like the Hindenburg. And so it's not like that. So you don't have to worry about an explosion. Now, granted, I wouldn't sit underneath the balloon with like a lighter, or something flammable. But there has to be a very specific range of gas to oxygen. And when they fill up these balloons, it pushes out the oxygen immediately. So it's all hydrogen now. So that's actually really good. So you're not going to get, that you're not going to be in that ratio where you could possibly have a fire or an explosion. So it's very, very safe. You literally probably could stand underneath this thing probably with a flame. I don't want them to do it right now, but you could probably stand underneath the thing with a flame. And given, the mass, it probably wouldn't even light up. It probably would just singe and all the gas would fly away and we would be sad from that. But you're not going to have any explosion. All right. So I want to walk you through, while they're starting to fill it up, I want to walk you through what we're going to be doing today. We have this. We can do our live screens with the cameras from Liz's camera. And Liz and Nick, the folks that have the camera, just want you to know this looks great. This looks great. The first year we tried to do this, and the camera footage was really bad. So I don't know if Anderson, Indiana got a new cell tower that's closer. I don't know if you just have better phones. But this is significantly better. So that is great. So we have the ability to watch from their phone. We have here, I can show you that we are tracking the aircraft. You can track the aircraft as well. If you're on FlightAware, you can see it's cap 1294. So you're welcome to do that. And then on here, once the balloons launch, we are going to be able, we're starting to see some data now. This is going to be where we're kind of going to live. And we're going to see here, we have the balloon in Anderson, Indiana. We can zoom in a little bit. And when they get all three balloons going, you'll be able to see all three of them. Now, the great thing about this year versus the previous years is that while these balloons are going, not only will we have the tracking of the balloon, we're going to be able to play with data, which is very exciting. And we can even go over here and we'll have a closer track to Indiana. And again, this will start populating once we come live. So let's go back to here. When we are live, we are also going to, I can show it here. Actually, I can't show it yet. Actually, I'm going to show you kind of a little bit. I have like 8 computers around me, so you have to excuse me as I bounce around between computers. One of the things that I did this year, show it from Balloon 1840. Okay, got it. The folks on the ground are sending me messages that I'm keeping track of as well. So one of the things that we have down here is this is not going to be live. This is going to be from last year. But that is going to be a balloon video, balloon full screen. So each of these balloons, they have a camera pod on them, and they can look at the bottom of the camera, they can look up, and they can look to the side. Now, again, we can't show this live, but what I did is I took last year's video and I did a multi-cam edit. And so when they launch Balloon 1, I'm going to hit play on this video, and that's going to show you basically what that balloon's doing, roughly where it is. And it's also, this way you can kind of get a sense for it. Again, it's not the exact thing, but if I didn't tell you that, the cloud coverage, I'm looking right now, the cloud coverage over Anderson, Indiana is almost the exact same cloud coverage we had last year. So you would have never known the difference. I could have did a little magic trick on you. But we are going to do that. This way, when we're talking, we can show all the maps, all the data. You can see what's going on, where the balloon, what it looks like for the balloon relative. You're looking at about an hour and a half going up, and you're looking at about a half an hour coming down. During that 2 hours, I promise you I am not going to talk your ear off the whole time. Some of the things I've done this year is I took some of your pre-launch videos and I put them into as one long video, and we're going to go check out your pre-launch videos. We're going to let that kind of run a little bit. We're going to kind of do this in a little bit like how SpaceX does it. In the first days of SpaceX, those that remember, when they had their launches, they would talk the whole time. And nowadays, they're doing like 2 or 3 launches a week. So after the launches, what they do is after it's kind of no longer visually interested, they show other things. They show promo videos. They show just tracking data. And we're going to do something similar. We're going to take a page out of their book. So we're going to be able to do that. And then we'll come back here. We'll be taking a look at the data. We have a couple of interviews that were done yesterday. We're going to talk about Colonel Joe for a few minutes. And that's going to be pretty much it for about 2 hours. And then we have 3 ground teams, and the ground teams are going to be, what we think right now is we think that these balloons are going to travel almost 2 hours driving time directly east. So that's going to be really good timing, because it's about 2 hours for these balloons to go up and come back down. Now, the exact time is always a little different. And actually, let me show you guys this. The exact time of the balloons coming up and go down, well, depends on a lot of things. It depends on the humidity, temperature. The winds at the 80,000 feet up are really fast today. They're at about 100, 110 miles an hour. So when we see this, so when I get all the video footage from all the balloons and I edit them down, so probably about a week, 2 weeks, you're going to see how we're going to have this multi-cam video that's from last year, but it's going to look like this year. That version we should have in a couple of weeks. And I'll have it for Balloon 1, Balloon 2, and Balloon 3. We actually, one of the balloons, very cool for those of you that are going to have virtual reality, so people are talking in the background. Let's see. I'm going to ask, hey, Liz, can you do me a favor? Can you guys mute your camera except for when you guys want to talk to me? Can you guys mute your microphone except for when you guys want to talk to me? No, you're fine. Thank you. All right. So where was I? So, I was saying was one of the great things we're going to have is we have a 360 camera, and everybody, that's Nick Green. Everybody wave. Nick, I don't know if Nick can see. Nick, wave to us. So there's Nick Green. Hey, Liz, see if Nick can grab the camera and show you real quick. So we got to see Liz real quick. And I'm going to introduce Liz and Nick. No? All right. Liz is camera shy. Liz does not want to be on the camera. So Liz and Nick are going to be your directors for the program next year. And so very excited about that. I am going to be staying on. I'm going to be helping with all the media, the live stream. Hopefully between now and next year, I'm going to figure out how I can get the audio to work. Let's see. Video keeps ending. Must be on your end. I am fine. Okay. Is it possible for us to see the balloon tracker on our side? It's not, because the company that does the tracking, we're not certain that it can handle a load of 100 people, watching it all at once. Or right now, I think we've got 233 views going on, 82 concurrent. And so if everybody jumped onto that at once, it may actually cause that problem. And I want to make sure that we do have the ability to track it ourselves without the site going down. So good question, but we are going to leave that. Now, I will say is that when we are done today, you will be getting, the people that have been getting the emails, you'll get an email from us. And in that email, you're going to have a link. And it will have a link to all the tracking. This way you can play with the data. You can play with all, you can time code it to see how it goes forward. Some people like to put that in their post-launch videos if they're competing for the Kittinger Cups. So that's very good. All right, I'm seeing them starting to walk out with some of the balloons. So that's great. Liz, can you just pan around? Can you show me if all 3 balloons are filled at this point, or do we just have the 1 or 2? Okay, all right. So they've got 1 balloon filled. The second one is being filled now. All right, and Liz is walking over so we can take a closer look at them. Yeah. So if anybody wants to do this themselves, and you can get the electronics, because what you really need to have is you need to have something that can track this thing going up and, more importantly, coming down. You need to have some type of a way of having GPS sending back and forth. You could, in theory, try to do the tracking the same way we track the ELTs. I'm not sure I would recommend that, because when these come down, you have to be really careful where they're going to come down in. Last week, we didn't launch for 2 reasons. We didn't launch... I can't hear him. Once he tried to get us to hear him in the field, then video closes. Other people are saying I'm fine, though, so I'm going to assume that we're good. It might just be some individuals. So chat in the YouTube. I know that I'm about a minute pause between when you say something, I see it, I respond, and then you see my response. So I'm assuming that it looks like most people are saying it's good. So I'm just going to keep going on thinking I'm good. So anyways, where was I? So you want to be really careful where these balloons come down. So last week we had a no-go for really 2 reasons. One, the weather wasn't looking great. I don't know what it ended up happening, because the weather reports are almost always wrong, right? So, but it was calling for rain, and we have lots of people that are flying in to the site. And so we didn't want to risk people flying there and then not going. So let's see. What is the flight number for tracking? I can tell you that. Let's see. And I'll continue my thing in a second. So the flight number is CAP 1294. CAP 1294 is the flight number. All right. And so last week we had a weather issue. And the other thing that we had was the jet stream, which usually goes west to east, was going west west to east, to take it away from the city. So Anderson, Indiana is northeast of Indianapolis. And so this is a great place to launch balloons because there's a lot of farmland. If you're having your cornflakes this morning or cereal, there's a chance it came from Indiana. Large, just fields and fields and fields of soy and corn. Last year when I drove from the airport to Anderson, Indiana, it was like, a couple of minutes outside the airport, it was just nonstop cornfields and soy fields. It was really great. It was really fun to drive through. And because also the roads were like these tiny, at least the roads I took, they were tiny, like little dirt roads that if two cars wanted to go past each other, we would have had to slow down and kind of pull over to a little beside. So literally, just totally surrounded by corn and soy. It looks like the second balloon there is getting ready to go up. Getting almost done being filled. So then what happened is, but last week, the jet stream and the high altitude winds, instead of going from west to east, pushed east to west. And so the balloons the prediction for the balloons was that they were going to land just south, possibly in the city of Indianapolis. We obviously don't want that. And a funny story, since we have a little bit of time, last year, if you all remember, we had to delay a week there too. And the reason why was there was a good chance that one of the balloons was going to come down in a prison yard. Can you imagine? So, can you simply imagine being a guard or being an inmate? And here comes this, you wouldn't see the balloon because the balloon would have popped, but you would see this box with a parachute just coming down into a prison yard. It's crazy. So we have to be careful about where they come down. So today we got the weather is absolutely perfect for this. We have the winds up at altitude are a little higher. So the previous years we had, probably about a half an hour, 45-minute, drive to go get the balloons. They're about a 2-hour drive today. So almost the entire time from the time that these balloons lift off to the time they come back down, the ground teams are going to be hurrying into their vans and getting ready and driving right to the predicted locations. We're going to, once the balloons launch, actually, we have a few minutes. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping so that when the balloons launch, we can show that more live. All right, I have two interviews, one video and one interview I want to show you guys all. One is Liz and Nick met with the communications team. This is a full CAP mission. As I mentioned before, we have air crew, we have ground teams, we have SUAS, we obviously have all the people on site in Anderson, Indiana. And so, the comms team is just a huge piece of this. Let's take a quick listen to them. Let's hope that you guys can hear this. So hang on one second. This I did test earlier. I was able to test this earlier. Let's see if this works.
So I'm Captain Lopez, and for the high altitude balloon launch, I am the communications leader here at the McKenzie Communications Center.
I'm Cadet Second Lieutenant Lopez. I am the Assistant Communications Unit Leader for the high altitude balloon launch.
I'm Cadet Second Lieutenant Alvarez, and I'm the MRO in lead of the high altitude balloon mission.
And I'm Lieutenant Colonel Frank Merrill. I command the Titan Cadet Squadron here at the McKenzie Center, where we're doing the comms for the balloon launch.
And for our team that we have here behind our camera is actually Cadet Second Lieutenant Quinn Weber, who is running our administrative side and public affairs for the high altitude balloon launch here at the McKenzie Communications Center. Most of what we're going to be doing during this operation is monitoring the communications that are going on with the aircraft and ground teams that are going out, using the ReadyOps systems to keep track of them, and then coordinating any type of communications into Ohio as the balloon may be taken into that area. So we will be doing a lot of coordination between wings for communications for that. It will be a long day. Normally we have one communications unit leader, but with the length of the day, we have two, being myself and Cadet Second Lieutenant Lopez for the day.
So in addition with that, my primary task is going to be that the MROs are doing their job well, making sure they're rested, as well as making sure all the equipment is functional throughout the day.
So essentially, as we are operating here inside our comm center, here at the McKenzie Center, it was a cooperative effort between the school district and Civil Air Patrol. We used to be in a closet that was only from here to that wall, so you're looking at about a 20 by 20 space, and antennas that were mounted on the roof at the time of operation and then had to be dismantled when we were done. After several operations that were actually very positive and very successful, the school district asked, what can we do to help you? And we said, can we get hardened antennas on the roof with conduit that goes up to the roof? They said, sure. They gave us new room, new location, and new space that enabled us to build up the comm center with Civil Air Patrol equipment to run operations from the school, primarily, for the most part, staffed by cadets of the squadron that is here at the school, in which Colonel Merrill leads the squadron as the squadron commander, and Cadet Second Lieutenant Alvarez was the deputy commander previously for the squadron, but one of our first mission radio operators. So as a result, her and the other MROs from our squadron were able to, at a moment's notice, during a school day, ask teachers, can we get excused to run an operation? And then they come over here and crank up all the equipment. They are literally able to raise up the monitors, so they have double monitors here with maps of where the mission is going. They can run through ReadyOp to the various repeaters in Indiana Wing that are connected in, and run throughout the entire state. With the backups of the base radios here, anything local we're able to do and still connect in with the repeaters that are closest to. We've got 2 repeaters very close in, so the entire central Indiana piece, Marion County and the Donut counties, are covered by the repeaters that are in our space that we can actually hit from here. So any operations in this county and the Donut counties, we can actually run those operations here. The antennas that we have installed up on the roof actually enable us to move an antenna specific to point at another repeater and actually hit that one too, that we can expand out to a larger coverage to be about almost 10 counties that we can cover from ours, the Donut County, and a few more counties going south. So when we combine all of that, where we can run 3 operators from here with VHF radios and an HF, which is one of the brand new Codan systems, our communications leader would sit at the very end with their computer, but otherwise all operations can run from here just with what we have here. Eventually we will be expanding this a little bit more to train the cadets and senior members on advanced radio operations, because a hardened communication center is great, but one of the things that we're advancing into is field communications and setting up in the field to support ground operations that are outside of the range of the repeaters when you're on the ground. A lot of technicality into it, but you can lose the signal, and they are going to be able to help bridge that gap and increase our communications capabilities throughout the entire state. And it's a huge piece that we've been able to achieve.
All right, very good. So now what I've heard is that this is now the 3rd balloon. So as soon as this balloon is full, we will be launching and we'll be underway. Yeah, thank you very much to everybody that's in mission base and in the communications base today. One thing they did mention is because the winds are pushing so fast to the east that this is going to approach Ohio. And actually one of the ground teams is actually going to be a ground team from Ohio. This is the first year that we've actually done a ground team from a non-Indiana unit. So I want to give a special thank you to the Ohio wing for assisting us as well. All right, so it looks like we have the 3rd one. Now, here's the deal with the balloons. So the size that you see these balloons, I want you to imagine, if you see how the cadets are pushing against it, I want you to imagine the atmosphere as just like an unlimited amount of hands pushing against it. And what happens is as the balloon rises and it gets higher and higher, the pressure of the hands pushing against it become less and less and less. And so the balloon will start to expand and expand and expand and expand. It will become many times larger than it is now, probably 4.5 times larger than when it's fully inflated, at ground level. When we get up to between 90 to 100,000 feet, you're only looking at about 3% atmosphere. And so the hands that are pushing against it, the virtual, atmospheric pressure that's pushing against it, is almost non-existent. But the gas inside it is the same volume that it was. And so the balloon gets larger and larger and larger. Now, just like if you're blowing up a balloon, a party balloon with your mouth, you blow up, too much and the balloon gets too big, it pops. It's exactly what's going to happen here. So the balloon's going to climb. As it's going up, one of the things when I'm showing the video of the balloons from last year climbing, you'll notice the camera pod's going to be the same distance underneath the balloon the whole time. So take a close look at the size when I'm showing you the camera shooting up. Take a look at the size of the balloon. And then, it's literally almost exactly an hour and a half. So once the thing launches, you can put about a stop timer, yourself for about an hour and a half. And if I can mark it down to myself, I'll try to do it myself so I can let folks, can give you a warning, because I do switch the multicam to the top view when it bursts. But as it's climbing, take a look at the size of the balloon. You'll see it getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then eventually the balloon just gets to a certain point. It keeps climbing. It'll just burst. And that thing just drops. It just drops crazy. There's no atmosphere. There's no drag. There is a parachute, but there's no atmosphere for the parachute to grab hold of the parachute. There's no atmosphere for the parachute to grab hold of to open itself up. It's just going to be in free fall basically for quite a while. And then, probably about 5-10 minutes, slowly the atmosphere doesn't just turn on, right? So you're slowly going to get 5% atmosphere, 6%, 7%, 20%, 30%, 50% atmosphere. But eventually the atmosphere is going to start getting dense enough that the parachute will start to open. And that's the other thing that's kind of neat to watch when you look at the up camera when it's coming down. The reason I'm showing, it would be kind of fun just to look at the side and the bottom the whole time, but the reason I want to show the up camera a bunch of times because I want you to see the size of the balloon and I want you to see the size of the parachute, because as it's coming down, you're going to see that parachute just getting dragged behind it, with nothing going on. And then all of a sudden you're going to see the parachute just slightly opening up, and then over time, it's going to more and more and more. You're going to see like just the last 10, 15,000 feet. It's really when the atmosphere really kicks in and it really opens up that parachute quite a bit, which is why we have it's an hour and a half going up and it's only 30 minutes coming down because that thing's going to drop like crazy. Now somebody did one time ask the question, do you have a parachute? I'm like, or does it just drop? You do not want all this stuff dropping on somebody's head. So even with a parachute, you don't want it dropping on somebody's head. But without a parachute, this would hurt. Everything that is here is foam. Even the camera pod is foam. And so, safety is always our number one concern. We always want to make sure that, nobody gets hurt or injured. And so that's why we take great lengths making sure we have the parachute that can slow it down, the streamer with the lines, as well as the foam boxes. So it looks like they are just about done with the third balloon. Let me ask the question to the chat again. It'll be about a minute between the time that you will type something and it looks like I'm responding. However, as soon as you type it, I will be seeing it. And then there's about a 30-second delay from the time I see it respond and you'll see it. So any questions so far that you all have? It looks like we have currently 83 units watching online, 291 views so far. Let's take a quick look while they're getting that last one ready. Let's take a look at this airplane. I've been kind of laughing. I'm a pilot myself. And the one thing that pilots hate is having to do a holding pattern. And getting ready to launch. All right, I'm getting ready to launch. So let's get there and let's watch it. So it looks like they're going to launch the third balloon maybe on the pad. Okay. Okay. Liz, let me know when they're about ready to let go of the first balloon, because I'm going to start my make-believe video from last year. And this way it'll be in time with the balloon launch there today. Looks like we're just taking one last second. It looks like I think Brandon's probably turning on all of the GPS, all the communications with the satellites. And so that's good. That means we'll see the tracking data. Let's actually see if we can see that. There we go. Last packet. I'm going to show you guys this real quick. Do let me know, Liz, and I'll come back to you when we get ready to launch. Let's see here. I want to show this. Thanks so much. Yeah, so when we look at the data, we can see that the ground in Anderson, Indiana, looks to be at about 880 feet. So if anybody is doing any calculations for their experiments, and we get up to say 100,000 feet, know that we launched at just a little under 900 feet. So that's their elevation in Anderson, Indiana. The temperature obviously is not negative 238 degrees Fahrenheit. So the other ones probably are a little bit closer. The sun's probably baking them a little bit. Once they get up into the air and the wind starts cooling them off, we'll probably get more accurate temperature readings. The last packet, that's how I know that we are live with the data, because now they're saying last packet 2 minutes ago, 1 minute ago. Let's see here. Wow, that's a lot of loops. It is. Sir, is there a reason that we won't see the live footage of the balloon's perspective going up? Yes. The data, we don't have any way of communicating with a satellite to be able to send the video feed up and then back down. That would be something I would absolutely love if we had it. My assumption would be that the technology required to transmit that would probably be pretty heavy. And every little bit of weight that we add to the overall balloon means it can't climb just that much higher. These balloons, that's actually a really great question. I appreciate that very much. The balloons themselves, okay. The balloon, they're talking in my ear, so I'm just trying to listen to what's going on. So if you look at like a SpaceX launch, those things are super heavy, right? I mean, they still have to watch all of their data. Let me get back over to the Teams chat so you guys can see them starting to lift up the balloons. Think we're going? All right, let's just watch it. I'm going to be quiet and we'll watch. Right. So what they're talking about in the background in my ear is that they are going to launch them all just about simultaneously. So they're all going to launch about 10 seconds apart from each other. We don't want to launch them exactly at the same time. If we launch them exactly at the same time, then they could get tangled up with each other. What we did the first 2 years is we launched them pretty significantly apart from each other, 15 minutes, 20 minutes apart from each other. And what happens is the landing location becomes drastically different. And what we have here, we did last year, is we launched them all within about 10, 15 seconds from each other. As a matter of fact, when I launch, when I play back the video, you may even hear them. They're kind of talking in the background, which one they're going to launch first. I'm kind of listening into them doing that. But then what that helps is when they launch them all together like that, it helps so that they land somewhat near each other. So if you only have a few ground teams or even one ground team, that ground team isn't driving 45 minutes in between the balloons. They should all land not right next to each other, but relatively next to each other. Let's see. Any other questions from the chat while we're watching here for the launch? All right. Liz is indicating that it looks like the pod, the balloon that we're looking at right now, appears to be the first one. Let's see here. It looks like we're getting ready. It's a little windy. It's much windier than last year. So our air crew right now is going to be moving themselves to upwind, so that this way, when they're going to be circling away from the direction that the balloons are going to get carried in. So that's an important thing. It's a safety thing we talk to them about pretty frequently, making sure the pilots understand they have to stay upwind of where the balloons are. We want to make sure that the balloons don't see the Cessna 182 as something that to aim for. Let's see. So far, no more questions. All right, let's go ahead and just keep watching. We are very close to launch now. First balloon going. There goes. They're excited on the in my ears. They're all excited. They're all saying goodbye. So, second balloon's ready to go. There it goes. We have a successful second balloon launch. Third balloon's ready to go. They're counting it down. And there it goes. Look at that. Look at that shot. All three balloons in frame at the same time. Oh, it's so exciting. We work all year round, and all of you, your units, when you're on this program, you guys work so hard for this moment. Very exciting. Now, we have the airplane up, so the airplane's going to have a totally different view of, let's see. Yep, there's the airplane. I want to give Liz and Nick Green a shout out. They're doing great. They're hearing what I'm talking about, and they're reacting to it. So that's fantastic. So that's there's our CAP airplane. So they're gonna track the balloons for a little bit. Now these balloons are climbing much faster than the cap airplane. They've already got some separation. So that cap airplane is going to lose sight of them pretty quickly. The cap airplane is actually going to probably land, probably get some fuel, and then go and look for the landing site. We'll talk a little bit later about how that's going to work. All right, Liz, I'm going to take you guys off now. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody on the screen. All right, now, sounds great. Now, what I'm going to do here is up here, we are now going to hit launch on our make-believe launch from last year so we can see what it's doing. Let's follow that on. And while we're watching this, we're going to have the balloons. There it goes. So this is basically what just happened. And we're going to let this run for a little bit. Let's see, over here. We're already getting ground tracks. Wow, that wind is really grabbing them. And there you can see the football field that they launched from. You can actually see one of the other balloons that they hadn't released yet. There it goes. All right, so we will track this. And once they get a little bit more altitude, we'll start looking at data. I can get rid of that bottom there. So this view is very similar to what you've seen probably in an airplane. Right now, they're not that high. So it's similar to what you would see even in a CAP airplane, let alone an airliner. But in about 45 minutes to an hour, these are going to be well higher than anything you've ever been in, unless you're like a U-2 pilot. These will be much higher than anything that you'll likely ever be in. Let's go ahead and just watch this for a few minutes. I'm gonna quiet down and give you a little bit of peace and quiet. Let's watch for about 5 minutes. This would be a good time. If anybody had any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'd also be interested. It looks like we've got about 85 folks watching online right now. If you would like, go ahead and I'd be interested to know what squadron you're with. Yeah, as I mentioned before, I said just keep how the size of that balloon. Maybe put your thumb over your screen or just see the size, and then later on, you can actually see one of the other balloons flying above it. That's cool. It looks like, again, the weather's almost identical to what they had today. So this is probably pretty close to what it looks like right now. So just track with your mind how big that balloon is. And they're about ready to go into the clouds, which would be neat. So good question. So one of the questions online was, where are the control capsules now? So the control capsules are actually at the same school as as the launch was. So everything about these vials is going to be the same, except for the flight vials, going up into the atmosphere. If we had put the vials in some type of controlled atmosphere, controlled container, then it would no longer be a control. That you would have two variables. You would have the variable of the controlled room that your controlled vials are in, and you would have the variable of what the flight vials are. So everything is going to be the same with both vials, except for the flight vials going up to, should be close to 100,000 feet. I see a couple of folks are asking about the list of the balloons. Hopefully in the description, I did copy and paste them into the description of this video. So you should be able to see them there. If you came into the live stream very early on before I added them, then you might have to reload the video to get the new description. Hopefully that'll help you. Any other questions that the chat has? Okay. While these are going up, I'm going to keep an eye, because I do want you to see these go through the cloud layer. I do want to spend a couple of minutes talking about, hey, Batavia, New York. That's great. My home unit, when I first joined CAP many years ago, was Rochester, New York. Spent a lot of time in Batavia. So great to see you here. So, when we first started this program 4 years ago, it was a combination of dreams from a few folks. Susan Millette, who you saw wave earlier, anybody that's involved in aerospace education probably knows Susan's name. She is just involved in everything. She does so much with the outreach portion of aerospace education. And I'm happy to say that she's a close friend of mine, that we've become friends. And I really appreciate everything that she does. I do want to say that, the leadership from Commander Felka, all the way down to everybody in aerospace education, everybody in the mission teams, operations teams, everybody is just so incredible with this program. I can't thank you all enough. And one of the big people that helped start this program is a gentleman named Colonel Joe Kinger. So those of you that are working, can we see the balloons be seen on flight? You cannot see the balloons on flight radar. They don't have any type of communication or radar or ADS-B or any way of tracking them on flight radar. So that's why we have this over here with the maps. So so Colonel Joe, well, you know what? I'm going to stop talking. I'm just going to let you watch a video about Colonel Joe. Let's watch that now.
Space is hostile. It's very hostile to man. Blood boils at 65,000 feet. The Project Excelsior was the first time anybody was outside of a spacecraft in a space environment. I'm Joe Kittinger. I spent 29 years in the United States Air Force. Half my career was spent in research and development, working as a test pilot. The other half was a fighter pilot. I was a project officer on Project Excelsior. The two objectives of Project Excelsior was, first, how to protect a man in a space environment, and second of all, how to provide the means of escape from very high altitude. When a person ejects extreme high altitude, he is liable to spin. And the higher you eject, the more spinning you could do. Unfortunately, we didn't have aircraft that would go that high. The only thing that could get up that high was a balloon vehicle. The takeoff was in the morning at about 6 o'clock. The climb time from takeoff to 102,000 feet was about an hour and a half. And at 40,000 feet, which is where my pressure suit inflates, and I suddenly discovered that a pressure suit glove in my right hand was not working. I knew that if I told the people on the ground that it wasn't working, that they'd make me abort the flight. So I opted not to tell the people on the ground that I had this problem. I could not use my right hand during the flight. Everything I had to use my left hand. It swelled up about twice its normal size. Well, the sign on the bottom of the gondola was, "This is the highest step in space." Think about being at 102,000 feet. It was a very interesting experience for me to sit there and look at the horizon, and I could see over 400 miles from that altitude. My guy on the ground said, "Okay, we're over the position, you're cleared to jump." And I jumped. I fell for, it seemed like I wasn't moving at all. There was no crescendo velocity. There's nothing you can see. So I rolled over my back, I looked up, and I saw the balloon flying into space. I said, "My gosh, that's amazing." And then suddenly I realized that the balloon was sitting still, and I was going down at a fantastic rate. And then the small drogue chute came out, and I free fell, stabilized from that altitude all the way down to 14,000 feet with my main parachute open. And then it was just a question of getting down to the ground. When I landed, my team was right there immediately. We were just ecstatic because we had accomplished what we set out to do. We had shown that man could go into space and work properly. We showed that we could protect him in a space environment. We showed that we could get a man down from high altitude. So there were a lot of firsts on the program. And as a result of this test, today, some 54 years later, every ejection seat in the world uses a small drogue chute to stabilize the free fall from high altitude. We were breaking barriers. We were setting new goals and exceeding those goals.
All right, very good. I want to answer a couple of quick questions. And first of all, I want to give a shout out to my South Carolina director, wing director of AE, Timothy Ellison. I see he's on. He made a comment there. Thank you, Timothy. Appreciate that. Let's see here. All right, so when will the pre-launch videos premiere? So what's going to happen is we're probably going to talk for just a few more minutes. And then we're just going to be tracking data. I'll come in as we're looking at data, talk in between. But when I'm not here kind of walking through things, we're going to show the pre-launch videos. We haven't done that in the past during the live stream. I'd be interested to hear from you in the chat once you start seeing it, if that's something that you like or not, if that's a good use of time. I just didn't want to spend 3 hours. You have to listen to me for 3 hours. So let's see, a couple questions. What keeps... Susan McDonald said, Rochester, my born and raised, now in Wyoming. Love it, Susan. I moved from Rochester, New York down to Greenville, South Carolina. So let's see here. I got warmer. I don't know if Wyoming's warmer, so you'd have to tell me. Let's see here. Kate asked the question, what keeps the balloons from interfering with other aircraft? So one of the things that's really important that we do with the balloons is that we create what's called notice to airmen. So pilots are very familiar with that. So a NOTAM goes into the system, and when a pilot files a flight briefing or they go and look up the NOTAMs for the area, they will get these messages. Maybe there is divers in the area, and we can see now the balloons in this video is going through some clouds. It's very cool. And we'll go through the data in a second and start walking through data. But the NOTAMs will tell them to kind of be on the lookout. Now, these balloons are climbing really quickly. I want to say, let's see one here. Let's see, this one here is already at 20,000 feet. Yeah, that one's at 18,000 feet. That one's at 16,000 feet. So these are climbing very quickly. So as of right now, 20,000 feet's already, most general aviation aircraft aren't going to be at 20,000 feet unless they're a private jet or, something higher. But a King Air maybe, something like that. But most other most Cessnas, they're not going to get that high, right? So that was interesting. So what's going to happen is, I'm trying to think of what to guys tell you next. So the NOTAMs, when the pilots see these NOTAMs, they're going to be told, hey, be on the lookout. There's high altitude balloon activity in the area, weather balloon activity in the area. Now, even though you can't see them in Flight Tracker as an object, they absolutely can be seen by the FAA. So the radar does pick these up. And so if there's an aircraft that looks like it could be on an intercept with one of the balloons, we can't change the direction of the balloon. Once you let it go, it's gone. Actually, I had an interesting conversation with somebody one time who thought you could change the direction. But nope, it's imagine if you're a boat in water and you turned off the engines and you just floated. Your boat's going to go wherever the water goes. And it's the same thing with the balloons. There's no other propulsive method on these. There's no forces being impacted on these. They're stuck in the airstream, in the body of mass that is the air, which is also, right, a liquid, the gas. but it's still a volume and it's going to move. And so these balloons are just in that mass of air. And so they're just going to go wherever that mass of air goes. The airplanes, however, can move. So if the radar saw that an aircraft was going in the direction of one of the balloons, then they would direct the airplane to turn. Hopefully that answered that question. All right, let's take a look at some data. So now we have a nice video of the balloon now in between cloud layers. The one thing that's always great is if you're a pilot, it's one of my favorite things, being an instrument pilot, is if it's a really, really, really cloudy day. Like for instance, if you look at that cloud layer below, it looks pretty solid. So on the ground, it could be dark, nasty, gray. And as soon as you get on top of the clouds, it is just beautiful, sunny, bright. So, flying, if you have your instrument license, you can fly right through those clouds, get up on top of those clouds, and it makes the whole day seem better. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at some data here. Make this screen a little bigger. Okay. So let's see if I can zoom in over here. All right. So we have data coming in right now. So the way the numbers are, if anybody wants to keep track, if somebody wants to put this in the chat, that actually could be helpful. It's hard for me to type while I literally have 7 computers on my desk going at once here. So it'd be hard for me to type. But balloon 1 is going to be 4120. So if you look over here, you see command pod V3 and it says 1840. Well, the very top here, the blue one, it says 4120. That is balloon 1. Actually, this is good because the order this doesn't usually happen this way. Usually I'm not this lucky. Usually the balloons are mixed and matched in their order, but this is actually the right order. So command pod version 3, number 4120 is balloon 1. Balloon 2 is 9210. Balloon 3 is 1840. I see some folks writing it down for me. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, so balloon 1, 4120, balloon 2, 9210, and balloon 3 is 1840. And again, in the description, your units should be able to find out which balloon your unit is in. And we'll go through all of the data. I will say that we'll probably focus on 18. I was told that we should focus on 1840 from Brandon at Near Space Earth. Near Space Education, not Near Space Earth. But yeah, we'll bounce around between the different ones. But they all got released pretty much about the same time, so they should be pretty similar. We can see the altitude. Now, mind you, balloon 1's not going to be the highest. Balloon 2 is not going to be the second highest. Balloon 3 is not going to be the third highest. Let's see here. Gotcha. We'll talk to that question in a second. They have different weights. So the weight of them is going to be slightly different. Balloon 3 is the lightest balloon. That balloon does not have your experiments in it. It's carrying some other stuff. I'm not going to say what that stuff is yet. Hopefully, if it goes well, we'll be able to share with you later in a couple of weeks what that is. But that's right now that's a surprise. But balloon 3 is the lightest, so balloon 3 is overtaking the other balloons. Also, you can notice that even though it's only 4,000 or 5,000 feet different, you can notice that temperature is pretty consistent, pretty considerably different. Typically, this is always a generic comment. But for every 1,000 feet you go up, you're looking at about 2 degrees Celsius drop within the range of the normal flight altitudes we fly. We're going to see later on that as these balloons get up past 70,000, 80,000 feet, it's actually going to warm back up. So when they get to 100,000 feet, that temperature may actually be pretty close to the same temperature as what the ground level was. It's one of the things that we're going to want to keep track of. But you are going to see the temperature drop. I'll say it's 2 degrees Celsius, give or take, is roughly 3.5 degrees Fahrenheit for every 1,000 feet. But we can see here, it'll be interesting to see as the other balloons get to that 30,000 feet, do they drop from 28 degrees? Do they drop down to near 0 degrees, near freezing? If they do not, then we have to assume that the temperature readings on pod 3 are making it look colder than it really maybe is, and then maybe pods 1 and 2 are actually closer to the actual temperatures. Let's see here. I see a message here. I don't think it's from a CAP member, and I'm actually really excited when I see non-CAP people join. Let's see. Maybe read this real quick myself before I say it on the air. Let's see. Yeah, so I'll read out loud, so that's fine. I know there's controversy of sending helium balloons up, but I still love to launch one every so often with an email tag. I'm in the UK and managed to get one to southern Germany. Yeah, these things can go. And depending on how you do their weight, they can kind of get paused in the atmosphere a little bit. The types of material you're using with the balloons, they can kind of hang out a little bit before they burst. And so you can, we don't usually talk about military stuff in aerospace education, but if they launched balloons. We believe they launched a balloon in China, went up across the northern parts of the United States, and actually, I think it was an F-22 shot it down after it got over the coast, just by me here in South Carolina, by Myrtle Beach. I had a friend of mine from Myrtle Beach actually saw it go down. You can use balloons and go pretty good distance. Long before we had airplanes, we had balloons. We had hot air balloons. The first flights were not the Wright brothers. The first flights, those of you that have done your modules, were by the Frenchmen launching hot air balloons. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the data now. While we're doing that, let's take a quick look where the balloons are. Hang on a second. We'll watch this while I'm reading some of the data here. Hopefully we'll be able to see both. So balloon 1 is currently at 28,000 feet, almost 29,000 feet, so just shy of 30. And if you notice that temperature has come down quite a bit. It is now 13 degrees. So the temperature probe on the third balloon that's now showing negative 12 degrees, might have been pretty accurate. So we're not going to, at first I thought maybe we just had a bad temperature probe, but I don't think that's true now. That might track pretty good. All right. Let's see here. So going back to some of the data, I could hover over the balloons, but I think it's going to give us the same data that we're seeing over here. So we're not going to do that. Let me go ahead. I'm going to zoom out here so we can see the total track of the balloons. Yeah, that's better. Let me show that full screen. And if I zoom out a little bit, you'll get a chance to see, zoom over here, how close they are to Indianapolis. So every time it updates, it's going to jump back over. Let's see if I can fix that. Go back over. Yeah, so you can see, hang on. That is a me thing. Let's see if I can get back. There we go. I was trying to slide the screen over, and the Mac took it as a go back page. So let's do that. So you can see Anderson, Indiana. I'll just do it this way. And so you can see how close Anderson, Indiana is to Indianapolis. Is that every time a balloon updates, it recenters itself. We are expecting the track of the balloons to go almost due east. The weather patterns between 20,000 feet and 100,000 feet are roughly the same direction. That's not always the case. Like I said, last week, we actually had an issue where the balloons were traveling east first as the balloons were lower in the atmosphere. And as soon as the balloons got up higher, the jet stream factors and the high altitude winds just took them and just dragged them right to the west at a high rate of speed and could have dropped them right into the city of Indianapolis. One of the things you're going to see is that as these balloons are pulling, you'll see that the balloons themselves are going to be traveling further and further, faster and faster, especially as they get up high. Lower to the ground, they were probably going about 15, 20 miles an hour. And then as they get up towards, 60, 70, 80,000 feet, I think we're expecting to see wind speeds up at that altitude of about 100, 110 miles an hour. So those dots, those individual ping marks on the map, you're going to see them start to spread out because the pings are coming in, give or take, I think it's every 60 seconds, every 30 seconds. And so as a satellite, and you can lose a couple pings, but I have to be a little careful how often I say that. These are, communicating to a satellite. They are not communicating to a ground-based receiver. And so you could lose some communication. So anyways, I expect to see these expand out quite a bit as we get higher. One of the things that might be interesting for your teams is to kind of, when you get all of the data, which will be a big spreadsheet of data, when you get all the data in the lat long, is try to calculate at each altitude how fast did it actually go. Let's see here. So we have that. Let's take a look now at the overall altitudes. We are at, Balloon 3 is still far away at the top at 36,000 feet. Balloon 1 is under it at 33,000 feet, and Balloon 2 is under it at 28,000 feet. We can see the last scene here is cranking up 47 seconds. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's see here. Very cool. Let's see if we have any other questions while I'm looking. Oh, man, it's not 200 feet. Yeah, it's not negative 200. Nope. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and take another look at the virtual balloon here. One thing you're going to notice, you're going to see ice crystals because now we're below freezing. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show some of the pre-launch videos now. I can't take requests. These have all been combined into one long video. They've actually been playing in the background. So I can't take a request from somebody, say, hey, can you please show me our video? We don't have that. I don't have that capability to be able to hunt and peck to do that. But let's go ahead and let's watch some of the pre-launch videos. And like I said, I'd be interested. This is the first year that we've done it like this, where we're going to kind of fill up some of the time with the pre-launch videos. So let's go ahead and see how those look. Let me know how you like it.
Well, our team is going to be testing how radiation, low pressure, and high altitude, as well as cold temperatures, impact the growth of both marigold and tomatoes.
Very cool. Why would that be useful information to have?
Well, as humanity continues to progress technologically and we start exploring space, it's going to become very important to realize how microgravity conditions in space impact the growth of plants. So when we add a section on Mars, we need to grow produce, we need to know how plants are.
What kind of research are you doing to prepare for this experiment?
Well, so our team, we're looking over the radiation levels in the experiment site, and we're also looking over how radiation and low pressure impact plants.
How are you going to check for change? When we receive those plants back from the weather balloon, how are you going to know if they change?
Well, so we're first going to do a control. So we're going to grow some tomatoes and on Earth in control conditions, and then we're going to grow the seeds that are in space, and we're going to compare like the rate of growth, how long it took, and then overall to determine how the conditions in space affect it.
Thank you for your time. I have to ask, you made an absolutely incredible patch. It's blown up online, it's all over the media. Where did you find your inspiration?
Well, our patch was designed, inspired by our experience. So it features like sunflowers and tomatoes, we use pictures of it, and then like the layers of the earth and the sky, and now it's that's what the area is about.
That's awesome. Thank you. Why did you choose to do digital over hand drawn?
Because none of us have the necessary skills to be able to translate our ideas onto paper, and doing it digitally allows us to better create better.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's a very complex design, so good job.
For the 2024 High Altitude Balloon Challenge, our squadron, Fort Vancouver Composite Squadron WA080, designed a unique patch. We started by analyzing patches from NASA, SpaceX, and others to find inspiration for shapes that evoke space exploration. We chose a modified relics triangle, shaped like an arrowhead to represent a rocket. The patch features symbols for alpha, beta, and gamma radiation around the border, reflecting our experiments with radiation exposure. Instead of depicting moldy food, we illustrated a loaf of bread attached to a balloon with the slogan, "A Taste of Space." We were able to incorporate the Civil Air Patrol logo into the balloon, making it the centerpiece. The background shows Earth with a purple glow and a starry sky, capturing the essence of space. This design reflects our mission and creativity for the challenge.
Here we have cadets collecting and packaging moldy cheese for our first experiment. We choose this experiment to see the effects that a lack of oxygen and possible radiation had on the cheese mold.
The second experiment the cadets chose was moldy rice. Similar to the cheese idea, we wanted to see the effects that the vacuum of space and the lack of oxygen would have on the mold. This is a different kind of mold compared to the cheese. It will be interesting to see if there were any differences between the two molds.
Our third experiment is a radiation strip. We really wanted to see the differences in the amount of radiation in space versus on Earth. This will give us a good idea of how much our Earth protects us against these harmful rays.
The cadets' fourth experiment was a micro SD card loaded with a few photos from our squadron. The cadets wanted to see the effects that the cosmic rays had on digital photos and see if anything got corrupted after a return to Earth.
Our fifth and final experiment was sourdough starter. The cadets wanted to see if the vacuum of space and potential radiation would kill the yeast organisms. After it got back, we would attempt to make bread out of it. The cadets made a slogan for the possible space bread.
Like a square, a circle, it can.
I'm Cadet Tech Sergeant Davia, and I helped design the High Altitude Balloon Squadron patch for Bud Jackson Composite Squad. In the patch, there was balloons carrying a test tube to signify the high altitude balloon that carried our test tube, which had our samples in it. On top of the test tube, there were seeds, litmus paper, aluminum foil, and chapstick to represent 4 of the experiments that we sent in the test tube. In addition, in the background of the squadron patch, we had the background of space, because as one thinks of high altitudes, they think of space. Also, the border of our squadron patch was red and orange to signify the colors of the phoenix, which is our squadron symbol. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cadet Airman First Class Tanishka Take, and my item was aluminum foil. My hypothesis is that the flight group will be a little stronger than the control group because metals tend to be affected by the environments they are in over time, and aluminum is known to be strong in the cold.
I also worked on a 3D printed parts experiment allowed from Cadet Roger Paul. In the experiment, we sent 2 exactly finished 3D printed parts into high altitudes. Our hypothesis is that when they come back from high altitudes, they'll fit together exactly as they did before. If this works, then we will know that we will be able to use 3D printed components in things like spacecraft and spacesuits. This is because the 3D printed parts will not change in any size and will not change any properties. Thank you. We will know that we will be
Senior Master Sergeant Zing, and my experiment is seeds. So in my experiment, we gathered different kinds of seeds that we are going to send to high altitudes. So the hypothesis for this experiment is to see if it's going to take longer.
I want to come back real quick. The video, we're now starting to see that difference between the blue atmosphere of the Earth and the darkness of space. We are only about a little over a third of the way in its altitude climb, and we're already starting to see that darkness of space. So I thought that was cool. Let's go back to the videos.
Is the conditions in space. This will be tested by comparing under a microscope to check for cell membrane and wall integrity, cell division, and budding, as well as hydration capabilities of the yeast.
Hi, my name is First Lieutenant Jasmine Singh, and my object is chopstick and alpha 4. My hypothesis is that it will turn into a liquid or form into clumps. We will be testing this by looking at the product and also touching it to see if there are any clumps formed. Why are we doing this? We're doing this to see if chopstick can be used in space by astronauts or if any other objects with a similar consistency can be used in space with the astronauts. Thank you.
The cadets of Squadron GLR MI-395 are busy at work deciding what they will do for their high-altitude balloon challenge. Here we can see the cadets brainstorming different ideas. Eventually, they land on an idea to send pieces of metal into space to try to cold weld them. Lots of research was needed in order to figure out just how to accomplish this feat, but eventually they found a way. Here are cadets Hamilton and Mummy to explain what cold welding is.
Cold welding is a mysterious phenomenon that happens in a vacuum. In this phenomenon, metals are able to weld together without heat.
On Earth, there is a layer of air and oxide that prevents the metal from cold welding.
In space, however, there is no air, making it easier for the metals to fuse.
This metal is indium. Indium has a very unique property. It does not produce an oxide layer surrounding it. This means that when indium goes up into space and the air around the indium is removed, there will be nothing separating indium pieces that are connected, and they will cold weld together. The cadets hypothesize that using indium, they will be able to perform a successful cold weld because the oxide layer of the metal will not exist, and it will just be two pieces of metal touching each other with no air between them in the vacuum of space. In order to do this experiment, the cadets put small beads of indium into a Ziploc bag and poked small holes into the end of it to allow air to escape into the vacuum of space. They then sealed the bag and sent it off to the high-altitude balloon challenge, where it would be sent up into near space. The cadets also made a mission patch for the challenge. This patch was the final product of lots of brainstorming. The patch is filled with imagery relating to the squadron and the challenge, such as the state of Michigan where the squadron is located, and a hot air balloon representing the challenge.
Hello, this is First Lieutenant Merkel, and I am introducing McCord Composite Squadron 2024 High Altitude Balloon Challenge and their experiments.
Hello, I am Major Merkel, and our hypothesis is that the medication will have a physical change in the form of cracking, and the effects of it will be downgraded. For our transistor, we believe that it will corrode as well as will not be as good as before it went up.
Hello, I am First Lieutenant Nick. We found our problem that astronauts still need
Just wanted to show real quick, the ground teams are actually leaving. We actually have video footage inside the van. So very cool. Let's go back to the videos.
as if the medicine comes broken or cracked, it could hurt the astronauts by dissolving too quickly in the stomach, or the potency will not be the same.
So weather balloons and rockets both deal with low temperatures and low pressure. Both of these environments can cause problems with transistors and other electronics within them, causing a discharge affecting not only the transistors but electronics around them, and then can also cause some of the electronics to not start up properly, as well as just not start up at all.
Hello, my name is Anthony Merkel. I designed the patch for this year's 2024 High Altitude Balloon Challenge. In the patch you can see two constellations. Both of these constellations can be seen in Washington over the summer. And then you could also see in the balloon design, I put a rod with a serpent and a lightning bolt. Both of these represent our experiments for this year, High Altitude Balloon Challenge, and our way to memorialize that.
Hello, my name is Cadet Master Sergeant Grohl, and this is Cadet Airman First Class Schulte. We are part of Lake of the Ozarks Squadron 160.
Today we're going to be talking about the High Altitude Balloon Challenge.
In our experiment, we're going to be testing the effects of high altitude on Penicillium roqueforti, which is a mold that grows on specific cheeses, for example, blue cheese. Now we're going to talk about the hypothesis. In 2016, the ISS conducted an experiment on mold and the effects of its growth in zero gravity.
In this experiment, we discovered the abnormal growth and development of mold in Earth's outer atmosphere.
Because of the moist air and zero gravity on the International Space Station, it grew rapidly with no form before eventually turning into a dust-like substance.
This was a cool discovery because it showed just how adaptable mold was to the outer space environment.
The experiment also found that mold spores can survive up to 200 times the radiation that a human can.
With the factors of the low air pressure, the low temperature, and the dryness, we expect to see a similar result to the experiment taken on the ISS.
Where the mold will most likely freeze and dry out as it expands.
We have completed our mission patch.
This is our mission patch. In conclusion, we have completed the pre-launch requirements for the High Altitude Balloon Challenge, and we are excited to see the effects of low gravity on Penicillium roqueforti.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch our video.
Hello, HABC judges. We are the Fairfax Composite Squadron, MARDC 053, and this is our pre-launch video for HABC 2024.
This year we'll be setting up SD cards, specifically Micro Center 64GB SD cards.
But why?
Well, SD cards can store all types of important files and information, and they do not take up much memory space.
If we want to get data safely off Earth, then we want to know how the near space environment affects files.
Well, that makes sense. But we're not going to have just SD cards, right? What are we going to put on the SD card?
Retain a JPEG image, MP4 video, a zip file, a TXT file, and a string of code. Our team has done a lot of research to arrive at our hypothesis and decide what you're going to be sending up. We had to ask questions like, how do files corrupt? What's the near space environment like? How do SD cards work and store data? What conditions can SD cards withstand? How does that relate to the conditions of space?
Hypothesis is the various file types onto micro standard SD code exposed to a new space environment, the least complex file, corrupt the least. This new space conditions damage NA and D, flash memory, the more cells file takes up, the more will corrupt.
Micro Center's SD cards, flash memory, stores data using electronic signals and can withstand temperatures of up to negative 13 degrees Fahrenheit. However, temperatures in the upper atmosphere average at around negative 112 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's 99 degrees below its operating temperature.
Yes, so we're bound to see some damage. The files will begin to corrupt as the flash memory loses its retention powers.
Some hallmarks of corruption are distortion, discoloration, or patches in the images, as well as changes in the characters and text documents, as the ASCII codes, deteriorate by bit flips, which bits switch polarity unintentionally.
The files may be completely inaccessible.
The process for designing the mission patch for our squadron began with finding the best shape, and then adding experiment-related details, such as the high altitude balloon and the SD card, and designing a color palette, then drafting concepts until we came to final results. Final result drew heavily from US military visions for the overall concept, and it includes Earth where we are, the moon from our past space achievements such as lunar landings, and Mars with a tiny sliver of it shown, symbolizing that we will scratch the surface there, and that is where we intend to go next.
We hope to further our scientific knowledge and grow as a team throughout the rest of the HABC process and as we await launch. Thank you for your time.
Fairfax leads the way!
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our pre-launch mission briefing for the High Altitude Balloon Challenge with Captain Composite Squadron. MR NC 031, Captain Mike Hall, your commanding officer. Here is our disclosure about the pictures taken by the cadets in our presentation. For the teams that we selected, we have Foxtrot Sierra, Victor Mike, Mike Papa, and Sierra Delta. The squadron meeting on project design, we brainstormed experiments. Initially, we had 10 to 15 ideas, which we narrowed down to 5 using a SMART goals concept. We asked these questions for each experiment to make the final decision. Were they specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, or time-bound? Group collaboration helped to refine each variable. Our meeting outcomes were that 3 experiments were selected, weights and measurements were taken, mission patch design selected, and SMART goals reviewed before submission. We compared photos stored on the SanDisk before and after the high altitude flight. We used ChatGPT to analyze photos and score them independently. They were placed in an Excel sheet and saved post-launch analysis. The main question was, will the photo quality change after exposure to high altitude? And our hypothesis was that photo quality will degrade by 10% across all categories. Experiments 2 and 3 were about battery charge analysis. We were measuring battery voltage for AAA batteries and Energizer and Duracell lithium batteries. Experiment 2 and 3, our question was that will there be a decrease in the experimental battery charge? We weighed the batteries before the launch for their experiment. Here are the results. Slide. And for our patch design, we went through a creative journey trying to find different ideas for how to form a good patch that represents our squadron. And after coming up with possibilities and writing the possibilities down, we got to work. We went through many different rough drafts, and ultimately we decided to come with this final design. Thank you very much, and Semper Vigilant.
There are many differences between the environment on the ground and the environment high up in the air. But what exactly are those differences, and what effect might they have on different materials? To get an answer to both questions, our team at the MAR NC079 Pitt Greenville Composite Squadron came up with 2 experiment ideas. A device that would record atmospheric data and something organic that we could send up along with it. The device would record what environment the capsule was subjected to, and using that data, we could compare the conditions of different altitudes, as well as be able to see what effect those differences had on a feather that was also sent in the capsule. The device would consist of an Arduino Nano Every connected with a BMP280 and a micro SD card adapter with a micro SD card. The device would be coded to take atmospheric readings every 10 seconds once it was powered on. But what about the feather? For that, we chose an emu feather. Emu feathers don't have densely packed barbs like regular bird feathers, making them soft and flexible rather than stiff. This feature may prove useful in the design of future spacesuits, perhaps for insulation.
Augusta Composite Squadron will be participating in the High Altitude Balloon Challenge. What that means is we're going to be sending these experiments to the edge of space.
Part 1, as in any mission, was the briefing and planning phase. During this segment, cadets were assigned roles as experiment ideas were brainstormed. We came up with about 3 times the experiments used, most of them far-fetched, out of budget, or simply for laughs. This was a fun night of team building and aerospace lessons. Our submission for the HABC patch was selected from a pool of entries from our cadets. Here you can see the whole team at work, currently discussing what to put on the USB, which you'll see in a moment. Part 2 is the development and preparation phase. We received our materials and assembled the test tubes. The first experiment that you see is the Skittles experiment. We want to know if the pressure and radiation will change the shape and color of our Skittles. The second group you'll see is the battery team. We sent a AAA battery up to see if the charge changes or if it explodes. The next two teams...
For the record, nothing can ruin the taste of good Skittles. Just want to say that out loud.
The ball. The second, we want to see if the germination rate has changed or if we get a mutant plant. This team is the USB team. We wanted to know if sending a USB to space would affect storage or the quality of the files on the device. The next team is the marshmallow team. This team took extra care by wearing gloves.
Yeah, let's stop for a second. Let's go ahead and take a look. Somebody mentioned online, can we read the altitudes? It's a bit blurry. Yeah, let's take a few minutes. Let's take a look at the data now. So that's a good time to do it. So balloon 3 is currently at just 65,000 feet. So it's well ahead of the other balloons. Balloon 1 and balloon 2 are relatively close together. They're roughly 2,000 feet apart from each other. Balloon 1 is at 51,000 feet, and balloon 2 is about 49,000 feet. One of the things I'm going to find interesting now, if we look at the temperatures, the balloon, the lowest balloon is balloon 2, and it is the coldest. So as the balloons now climb through 50,000, 60,000 feet, let's see what happens with this temperature. Is the temperature going to start climbing? Let me see if I can slide the screen over a little bit. Hang on a second. All right, you can pretty much see my entire screen, so I can't really slide over more. Let's see. That's pretty much it. You're seeing what I'm seeing. It's not cut off over on the right hand side. That's exactly what I'm seeing. All right. Let's see here. We will see the altitude. We're looking at balloon 1 because we're not. That's balloon 1. 4120 is balloon 1. 9210 is balloon 2. 1840 is balloon 3. Let's see here. We can also see that balloon 3 looks like some of the air is either slowed down or it's actually pushed into it a little bit. It looks like it's kind of curling around a little bit, it looks like. The other two balloons seem like they're still going pure east. So this is what I think is actually really fascinating when you look at the data. Even though these balloons were really released within, 10, 15 seconds from each other, balloons 1 and 2 are kind of like hanging out together. And balloon 3, because it went higher, because of the weight difference, it's finding different air. And so if you were in a regular balloon, like something you would take for a ride, hot air balloon, sorry. If you were in a hot air balloon, this is a good example to show you one of the ways that a hot air balloon pilot will try to, steer the balloon is they become really good at what the winds are doing at different altitudes. And so they can kind of map out a path. If they go a little higher, maybe they go a little south. If they go a little lower, maybe they go a little bit more north. And so they can try to put the balloon in different air masses that are going in different directions. So that is one way you can steer a balloon. I mentioned earlier about how there's kind of an interesting debate about can you steer a balloon once it's gone. If you had a way of, say, increasing or decreasing the weight of the balloon, increasing or decreasing its ballast, and controlling the altitude of the balloon, then you can, within the limits of what the air is doing at each altitudes, you can control the balloons. You can steer with them. Again, it's not like if the winds are going between north east and south, you're not going to be able to go west. Unless you have some technology that I'm not aware of. If you're, there's probably somebody out there who sails, boats, who's probably going, oh, we could do that. We could, put a fin on it. And if you're that person, reach out to me. I'd like to learn more about that actually. To see if there is ways to steer these things above and beyond just changing the altitudes. Anyways, as you see, the temperature, it might be hard for you guys to see. The temperature has a pretty steady drop. Let's see what else we can see. The acceleration is starting to drop. Our acceleration is right here. So as the atmosphere is really heavy, the balloons are going to climb real fast. And so even when we take a quick look at the balloon here, you'll notice like it climbs really, really quickly. And then like right now, this video it's got about a half an hour left till it bursts. But it did the initial climb, it did the faster climb very quickly. And as it gets closer and closer to give or take the 90, 100,000 feet, which is what we shoot for, it'll slow down a bit. And then it'll burst and then it'll drop like a rock. So let's go back to our data here. One of the things, I don't know if we have it on ours. Let me take a look here. Hang on. We do have it here. Light. Ah, very cool. All right. Light actually, this is actually really cool. You could tell when it was in the clouds. So, and when it got out of the clouds, the brightness of the light came up. So we did not do this in CAP, but Near Space Education flew a bunch of these balloons during the eclipse. And it was really fascinating. Civil Air Patrol, obviously, hopefully most of you know, did a bunch of recordings, uploaded their data to NASA. Fantastic program. And Near Space Education, they did a similar type of thing. But you really saw even though to your eyes, it seems like the world got a little gray before, total eclipse. Their recordings from the balloons had a really nice, smooth, drop of light and a really smooth increase of light. Very, very fascinating. Again, these are all data you guys are going to be able to see. Let's see. Acceleration. And then that's altitude. Let's see what we have here. Okay. So we're going to have altitude, acceleration, temperature, IR status, UV status. These are all things that might be really important to you depending on your experiments. UV might be a really, really important thing. Ultraviolet obviously is different than, just the light that we would see. We don't see ultraviolet. So you could be in a room that's really bright, ultraviolet. Maybe if you had a bunch of blacklight paint, you would see the brightness of the ultraviolet, but your eyes don't see it, as opposed to just pure light in our visible spectrum. All right, let's go back to the pre-launch videos. These are good questions. Go ahead and ask your questions, and I can help answer them.
Hello, we are New York 288. This is our High Altitude Balloon Challenge. I'm Michael. With me today is Ian and David, and these are our other team members.
The Hot Tube Balloon Challenge will be a near-space experiment. Near-space experiments are typically experiments carried out in near space, typically about 85,000 feet or above. Most near-space experiments use either balloons, suborbital rockets, or high-altitude aircraft, and they're usually used in test things such as weather, science experiments, or testing new technology.
So our experiment
Every 1,000 feet. It could expand under low pressure, burn with the solar radiation, the water could boil out when it hits preheat, which is the stratosphere. The taste could be altered, the size could be altered before or after popping, or the weight could be altered.
After our experiment is complete, we will separate the control and experimental groups, and in both groups we will test for the size, coloration, any difference in odor, a difference in weight, or popping performance, see how long it takes to pop, if it pops at all. We'll also be tasting some of the kernels to test for any tasting changes, such as bitterness, if it's more or less dry, how edible it is, and do a blind taste test to see which one tastes better if possible.
So our mission patch symbolizes our mission at whole. We're trying to put kernels into near-Earth orbit. So if you see it features the squadron charter number 288, a balloon with wings carrying popcorn, the Civil Air Patrol logo, and High Altitude Balloon Challenge 2024.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Balloon 3 just crossed 75,000 feet.
Experiment 1, potato eyes. This is the potato eyes. The theory is not launch potatoes grows a root. No sunlight activation means launch potatoes roots sprout out.
The following experiment takes place in a lab where in just a couple of hours we extracted hundreds of algae-dependent organisms. While identifying the best samples, we were able to find more than 15 species of all sizes within just a couple of days, including a large population of nematodes and cyanobacteria. The frequency of these organisms are an important variable to the viability of the mesocosm we are sending up.
MI-238 High Altitude Balloon Challenge patch, made by Staff Sergeant Ritchie and Technical Sergeant Jerzer. Our patch. The potato and the moss are on our patch because they will be inside our test tubes for this experiment. We decided to make it as a shield, as a sign of Civil Air Patrol, for protecting cadets.
Deep in the Pacific Northwest, 6 brave members decided to face the challenge, the High Altitude Balloon Challenge.
Our mission is to collect data on the specifics of the flight to better understand our atmosphere firsthand. In our society today, we rely heavily on information provided by others, particularly when it comes to data in our atmosphere. Our experiment is to collect data from the balloon to show we, as cadets, are capable of both collecting accurate data and understanding it without cutting-edge technology.
As our balloon is carrying our capsule higher and higher in the atmosphere, we do need to realize the possibilities that can occur. First, let's start with the balloon. The average weather balloon will go about 60,000 to 100,000 feet in the air, or 20 miles, roughly. As our balloon is carrying our capsule higher and higher in the atmosphere, we do need to realize the possibilities that can occur. First, let's start with the balloon. The average weather balloon will go about 60,000 to 100,000 feet in the air. The balloon will most likely only go up to the stratosphere. Little weather exists in this layer and the air remains stable, although certain types of clouds occasionally exist in the layer. Temperature actually gets warmer with an increase in altitude, usually moving from a temperature of negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit to about negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
We designed a flight data recorder to capture and monitor data throughout the ascent and descent of the high-altitude balloon. Our goal was to analyze temperature variations at high altitudes and track the balloon's geographical location. To address the size and weight constraints, we stacked and soldered electronic boards together and selected a compact yet high-capacity LiPo battery. To evaluate performance under extreme conditions, we conducted a low-temperature test in a clinical laboratory using one of their freezers set to negative 40 degrees Celsius. The flight data recorder functioned well until negative 35 degrees Celsius.
Our second testing of the experiment capsule was a test launch using normal balloons and a kite string tied to the experiment. This was a pivotal moment for our team because we were able to accurately gather the data that we needed to see if the capsule worked, and we were also able to plot the exact location of the balloon using Google Earth. It was very exciting to see that all the hard work we had put into this challenge was finally paying off in a successful test launch.
Our team brainstormed an outline for our patch design. Then we created the final draft.
Our team's successes and failures and overcoming obstacles in this endeavor has been a very important learning tool for our team as a whole.
Our hypothesis is, if we send a gummy bear in high altitude, then the retrieved gummy bears will be lighter in color, the gummy bears will be less elastic, and also be deformed. Plus, there will be less bubbles in the gummy bears. Go.
Me, Cadet Senior Airman Hobbs, and Technical Sergeant Ramswalker has made the patch for this year's mission. The first few things that we did for the patch is we made the background look like the galaxy because that's where we're sending the gummy bear. And then another thing we did is we sent the gummy bear in the middle of the patch to make it look like it was just floating in space. And then the last few things we did is we put the charter number on the bottom, the mission on the top, and then the Air Force symbol in the background to make it just look.
I just want to stop the audio there for a second. Look at how beautiful that looks. Hang on, I'm going to go to the screen on that. Let me get rid of the data for a second. Okay. That is gorgeous. That is absolutely gorgeous. Let me see if I can make that full screen. Hang on. No. Hang on. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, looks like that's about as good as we're going to get. Yeah, no, that's gorgeous. See the blackness of space there. So that is about, that's probably about 85,000 feet. 90,000 feet right there. Yeah, that's breathtaking. Love that view. You know, and that's a view that you wouldn't see hardly ever, right? Because you're well above anything a normal aircraft's going to fly. Even if you were in a rocket, and let's say you're somebody who really works hard, and you're a lucky few, and you become an astronaut, and you launch, you're not going to be at this altitude for very long. I mean, you're going to basically go from ground well above this altitude pretty quick. You're not going to be able to just kind of hang out and see this near space view, which is what this is. Really fantastic. So there was a question, is that a star on the horizon or a satellite? I think it's the other balloon. Similar to today, we launched 3 balloons at the same time. And 2 of the balloons, this balloon, another balloon, they hung out really close together for almost the entire time. And they separated slightly when they came down. But otherwise, they were really, really close. This balloon has got about 20 more minutes left, and it's going to pop. So we'll have to start keeping an eye out where our balloons are, because they're probably going to be somewhat similar. Balloon 3 right now is at 78,000 feet, and the other balloons are a little bit lower. Let's just enjoy this view for a few minutes. Yeah, one thing I do want to add to the question is the star horizon on the satellite, in the horizon or satellite. We're much, much, much too low for satellites. If you were a satellite at this altitude, that satellite would have to be going crazy fast not to come back. Gravity's always pulling down, right? So when you're in orbit, what you're doing is you're going away from the Earth at the same speed as you're coming down to the Earth. You're always falling away from the Earth. The Earth is always kind of falling away from you. That's how you stay in orbit, at least in close orbit. You're not really in space. So satellites would not operate at this level. So if we're seeing something at the same altitude as us, it's either a U-2 spy plane wanting to know what the heck is on its radar at its altitude, or 99.99999% chance it's the other balloon. Yep, I'll jump back into the data here 1 second. Okay, let's take a quick look at the data again. Getting distracted by those incredible views. All right, so we are seeing balloon 3 is at 78,000 feet. Balloon 1 is at 61,000, and it looks like we got a little bit of separation between balloon 1 and 2 now. Balloon 2 is at 56,000 feet. It's also interesting now is take a look at the temperatures. I think that's actually really interesting. So as we talked about before, the temperature would actually increase a bit. Now, just like temperatures on the ground, every day is different. It's not going to be 60 degrees at 100,000 feet. It might still be really, really cold. But if we see here, the balloon that's at the lowest altitude at 56,000 feet is minus 39 degrees Fahrenheit. The balloon that is, give or take 6,000 feet above it is about 9 degrees warmer. And the balloon that is the highest altitude, my rough math tells me it's a lot higher, 21,000 feet, higher than balloon 2. It is give or take 24 degrees warmer. So that's quite a bit warmer. So good questions. Let me know if you have any other questions. I'm going to go back to this incredible view. Actually, we can bring the pre-launch videos back in. Here we go. I know you don't have audio. Let's get the audio back.
In each container we placed 2 carefully painted sheets of acid-free paper, and cotton wool was also added to block the light from the inner paint grid.
Recently, we learned of nanotechnology solar paint being developed for exploration. One type relies on the separation of gases when they are touching water vapor. According to solar reviews, quote, the paint works by absorbing moisture from the air and using solar energy to break the water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. The hydrogen can then be used to produce clean energy.
We hypothesize water vapor will form in our capsule on both inner and outer paint surfaces. Visible water stains should appear on the paint samples.
By observing potential heat, of which the increase is calculated by UV damage on the paint, and detecting which color of paint samples have the least amount of water condensation, we can observe the risk of ice forming on a plane.
Both of our experiments attempt to examine whether it is possible to use solar nanotechnology paint on a plane. Because of Hurricane Beryl, we cannot meet in person for a certain period of time, so we conducted one of our meetings online before the power went out.
We filmed everything using a handheld camera, gimbal, and tripod.
Next up is a top her!
I'll be talking about the science and background of this experiment. Before we talk about the science behind this experiment, let's talk about the history. A long time ago, many people were curious about how humans can hear. This changed when scientists discovered how sound waves travel. Greek philosopher Aristotle became the first to claim that sound travels in waves, that the quality of sound is unchanged and travels as far as the wave reaches. Now that people know how sound travels in waves due to Aristotle, some individuals want to know how fast the waves travel. French mathematician Martin Mersenne was the first to record the speed of sound in 1640. His speed of sound errors were less than 10%, which is pretty impressive because of the lack of technology in his time. 20 years later, after Merssenne's discovery, British scientist Robert Boyle discovered that in order for sound to travel, it has to go through a medium, and he found out that medium is air. To prove his point, Robert experimented. He puts a bell inside of a glass jar, and the sound produced by the bell could not be heard because the jar had little to no air in it. Christian Doppler, an Australian physicist, created a math equation that calculates the frequency of sound wave when the wave of the producer is traveling to the person. Now, let's talk about the science of this experiment. As the altitude increases, pressure changes happen, which could affect the sound. Air pressure does not affect the speed of sound, as air's composition remains constant. Air temperature affects the speed of sound the most. Even with pressure changes, sound will not be changed or affected, as temperature is one of the main factors that change the speed of sound. Now, let's look at how temperature affects the sound. Because higher temperature values give molecules more kinetic energy, allowing them to move faster and transmit sound waves quicker, the speed of sound is affected by temperature. So the hotter it is, the faster the sound, but at high altitudes it gets colder, and the speed of sound is slowed down. At high altitudes, sound waves become less intense due to thin air, making the waves not travel very far and become more quiet. Now that we've talked about the science of this experiment, let's talk about the breakthroughs. Hearing sounds at higher altitudes could lead to advanced communications, allowing pilots to communicate effectively. And with sound transmissions, this could help against the defense against air attacks by being able to track high-altitude enemies' planes, drones, and this could help with security and provide better surveillance.
For our high-altitude balloon wood experiment, we built a sound box with wooden baseboards, dampening foam, and openings for wires and microphones. This is how testing works. Block of wood glued here enables the solenoid to hit wood. Wires through this hole connecting to the power supply. Microphone sits right above where wood and solenoid meet. Team will analyze data before and after launch. We are looking for changes in decibels and hertz. We do not know the effects of changing pressure, temperature, and gravity, but we are eager to find out.
The goal of this experiment is to demonstrate the effects of high altitude on plants. Our hypothesis is that the low pressure at high altitudes will stunt the growth of the plant by reducing the rate of gas exchange. Low pressure at high altitudes reduces the rate of gas exchange in plants by causing the stomata of the plants to shrink. Stomata are openings on the surface of the plant that permit gas exchange. Low pressure causes the stomata to shrink by increasing transpiration in the plant. At higher altitudes, lower pressure causes the ozone molecules to be more spaced out, meaning that the ozone layer will be thinner. Therefore, there is more UV radiation at higher altitudes because there are less ozone molecules to absorb the radiation. Radiation may also damage the cells in the plant and may reduce the cell's ability to reproduce, which in turn will stunt the growth of the plant. For the mission patch, we wanted to represent our squadron. The Black Hawk represents Wheeler Army Airfield, where our squadron is located, and the mountains represent the Hawaii Wing. For this experiment, we used pebbles, a peat pellet, a black bean, and a plastic bottle cut into a small tube to hold everything together.
this year's High Altitude Balloon Challenge, we have decided to put radishes and yeast in our capsules. This year we will evaluate how the altitude affects radishes and yeast. We hypothesize that the low pressure, low temperature, and high radiation at high altitudes will adversely...
Just real quick, I want to jump in. If you're looking at the data, I don't know if you can see, it's probably a little blurry. I can pull it up full screen here. You'll notice it says last packet received was 17, 18 minutes ago. So if you're seeing the altitudes and you're watching the altitude and the temperature, they're not changing. That's why. We're double checking to see if something is going on with the website or this isn't controlled by us. So we're double checking that now. But that's why it doesn't look like anything's moving. It's because we haven't got any updates in the last 18 minutes. Let's watch the video some more because it's probably about 8 minutes left. It's going to pop, and that's kind of neat to see. I would imagine, especially Balloon 3, even though it's not updating, it's probably pretty close to the same as what you're seeing on the screen here. So when I see the data starting to come back, I will bring the data back into the screen. Otherwise, I'm going to take it off for now. Just enjoy the video. And we'll get that.
This is Squadron 902's pre-launch video for Civil Air Patrol's 2024 High Altitude Balloon Challenge. Our mission patch was designed to show what our experiment would look like when it is launched. The background portrays the edge of space. The white balloon shows the weather balloon that will carry our capsule to the edge of space. And the plants represent the type of seeds we will be sending: bean, radish, and marigold. Before we started brainstorming, we needed to ask ourselves, what happens at the edge of space? We learned that in the stratosphere, temperatures can range anywhere from 5 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 60 degrees Fahrenheit. We also learned that the stratosphere's radiation is 50 times greater than it is on Earth. After weeks of brainstorming and planning via Google Meet, we met up at our squadron building at Biddle Air Base to finalize our experiment and materials list. Our team will investigate the effects of radiation and temperature on various types of plants. We will use radish, bean, and marigold seeds to observe the effects of radiation and temperature on germination rate and plant growth. We hypothesize that if plant seeds are exposed to low temperature and high radiation at high altitudes, then they will grow slower than seeds that have not been exposed to such conditions. After finalizing our experiment, we got to work by gathering our materials and packing them into our capsule.
All right, I want to bring in, we are seeing data. This is something you guys won't see. It's a different view that I can get to. One of the questions about the data, a couple people have asked about that. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier in the chat. Maybe you just weren't here to hear it. But we can't provide a link to the data right now. We're not certain how many people could log in to the site without dropping it. So what we're going to do is when the live stream is over, probably in the next couple of days, we're going to want to check out the data, make sure everything looks good. And then you will all get a link to it. Then you'll all be able to look at it. We're not expecting you guys to be able to look directly into it. Does the sun appear larger the closer you get? Probably bright. Oh, hang on. I do want to show this. Let's go ahead and take a look real quick at the balloon. It's about to pop. Yeah, so I don't think the sun gets bigger. I think the sun just gets brighter. And so it's casting into the lens. There it goes. Watch this. Tumbles like crazy. It is just dropping. And if you remember, Colonel Joe Kittinger talked about when he first stepped off the balloon that he was in to test out. He was testing out the two things. He was testing out the drogue chutes. I apologize. He was also testing out the astronaut suit, the space suit. And when he first stepped off, he just started tumbling. He couldn't control it. Normally, skydivers, they're able to use their arms and legs and their body as kind of a way of directing their body, but in controlling their body, in the air. There's no air. So it's just, you start rotating in one direction and you just start going. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't stop it. You can't slow it down. You can't go a different direction. This is something that, other jumps you really control. They practice a lot when they do these types of jumps. They don't really do these jumps very often anymore. But when somebody does one of these jumps, they really practice how they jump off of the ledge, the platform that's being carried by the balloon. They try to impart as little movement as possible. It's like doing a bunny hop with no hop. Just like it's just trying to keep it as calm as possible. If you just ever so slightly put in a little bit more force into one leg or the other, your body will just start spinning. And there is nothing you can do to get it to stop spinning until you get lower in the atmosphere. Let's watch this for a little bit. I'm going to take a look at the data on my side, see if I can get that back for you guys. Might as well do the pre-launch video as well.
Agreed on both the color, style, and layout of the final design. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Second Lieutenant Ayers of Zero Rocket Pod Squadron, and basically the science behind this is that we're going to send the yeast up in space. Yeast is a living organism, and when it's exposed to the radiation of space, it will ultimately die and no longer be active. When it comes back down, we're going to bake the yeast to see if the taste, texture, or air bubbles in it will be any different.
This year, KY300 is participating in the High Altitude Balloon Challenge. We are sending up ranks, both cloth and metal, avian fecal matter, timepieces, and photo paper, and Rice Krispies and marshmallows. The fecal matter team interviewed Lieutenant Colonel Mike Bryant, who is a scientist for the USDA. They tried to create a hypothesis based on what he thought would happen. He thought that there would be a freeze drying of some sort to the avian fecal matter. They have constructed their hypothesis, and we will try to see if it's correct. The weight limit is 40 grams. We were right there on 40. While they were interviewing Lieutenant Colonel Mike Bryant, the others were constructing the vials. A lot of information was discovered while the interview, and all will be used in the hypothesis of the experiment. During the making of the patch, we all made our ideas. We all drew our ideas down on paper and presented it to the rest of the squadron. We voted on the ideas, and the ones with the most votes were taken home by Senior Airman Ryan Green. He created a patch, one patch to rule them all. That patch will be used as our official patch.
Now the as this box basically is tumbling out of control towards back to Earth. When we show the top shot here, you'll notice that the parachute will go from not being opened at all to being open a little bit to then being fully. Make sure you select all three. Okay. I'm getting information about the data, trying to get that to work. So just take a look at the sorry, my brain's thinking on two different things. Just look at the parachute. I was thinking umbrella. I don't know why I'm thinking of the word umbrella. I mean, I guess you could put an umbrella on this and see what happens. But the parachute, you'll notice that it doesn't open very much. And then as it's getting closer and closer and closer to the Earth, the atmosphere is getting denser and denser every feet it's going. There you can see now that the parachute is starting to open. And as we get down and down and down, that parachute will open a lot more. And it does seem like that we are receiving data. So that's the good news. It is not a problem with the data. At first I was very nervous because I want you to all have data. But it looks like we are receiving data. The problem is that this site that puts it into this format has stopped working for some reason. We are able to, and there is no way I'm going to be able to show this to you guys on the screen. Hang on a second. Let me see here. Missions. Yeah, let me just show this real quick. Let's see, Mac. We'll go back to the balloon in a second. Now the remnants of a balloon, pop balloon. So by looking at this, we are able to see the data of the balloons. It does appear that balloon 3, let's see, 1840 is balloon 3. So balloon, you probably can't see this, so I'm going to kind of highlight it here. It's currently at 15,000 meters, give or take 45,000 feet, rough estimate. I will say I want to congratulate us a little bit. I did see this at about 33,000 meters, I believe, which means that balloon 3 should have hit 100,000 feet. So that's great. As one of the projects actually mentioned, these balloons will typically get up between 65,000 and 100,000. Now, we basically amplify these balloons. We put in a little bit more gas. We try to make sure the weight's a little down. We really try to shoot for that 100,000. I like round numbers. I'm an easy kind of guy. So we like to see 100,000 feet. It does look like we did hit 100,000 feet. On the other ones, I'm trying to see now if I can tell if the acceleration still looks positive. So it looks like it's still climbing. So let's take a look right now. So 4120 is balloon 1. And this ping is 25,366, and that's meters, not feet. So 25,366. Let's refresh it. And now it's 25,695. So yeah, because it moved down here. So it has it is still climbing. Pod 3, 1840 is balloon 3. Is now at 12,854. So yeah, so it's coming down quick. The good news is that we are going to have this data. So we will be able to send this data. You'll be able to filter it out. I'm going to keep an eye on this here. We can see here it says last packet 32 minutes ago. So this graph doesn't do us any good. I'm not sure if the mission team is listening to me, but if the mission team is listening to me, do not use this graph for your where to go drive to. You're going to have to use the Latin long that are in the console itself. Reach out if you need that, if you don't have access to that. You probably have access to it, but reach out to me if you don't. All right, let's go back to the video.
Hello. This is Suffolk Cadet Squadron 10.
NER NY 328.
This is a high altitude balloon challenge experiment.
Our mission patch was designed to be the same shape and contain the same yellow and orange colors as our squadron patch.
We have a high altitude balloon containing the CAP logo carrying Long Island, our hometown area, up through the different layers of the atmosphere.
The 52 stars represent the 52 rings of CAP.
First, we brainstormed putting a color-changing plastic into the vial, but there was no way of preserving and recording the results, as the color would revert back to the original as soon as it came back to Earth and standard temperature.
Second, we thought of sending up a metal called gallium. The issue with this was the order wouldn't arrive in time. It is also a liquid, and similar to the colored plastic, there was no way of preserving it.
Third, we brainstormed glow sticks, but due to it being a liquid inside, it violated the rules and therefore we could not send it up.
Fourth, we thought of using photo film, but we couldn't go through with it due to the lack of room in the vial.
We voted on farming crystals and watermelon seeds to see the growth rate difference between space and sea level.
We picked watermelon seeds because they are common plants, and although they do not grow their fruit fast, they sprout faster than other plants, causing the decision to be unanimous.
We think the seeds staying at sea level will grow bigger than the ones sent to near space. We believe this will happen because of the decreased oxygen levels in the higher altitudes.
So this is how the potassium polyacrylamide crystals work.
Yep, and balloon 3 is now below 10,000 feet.
Hi, I'm Cadet Airman Avila.
Hi, I'm Cadet Staff Sergeant Klingel.
Hi, I'm Cadet Staff Sergeant Biazza.
Hi, I'm Cadet Staff Sergeant McQuaid.
Hi, I'm Cadet Second Lieutenant Wise.
We are very excited to see the results of this experiment.
We hope the launch goes well.
And all the staff participating are safe.
Thank you for your time.
You can see that the parachute now is starting to fill out much more.
Hello, Cadet. What is your name, rank, and position in this experiment?
Hello, I am Chief Master Sergeant England, and my position is the director for filming the mission.
All right, and director, what are your ideas for this experiment?
So my idea is to get a video that everyone can look back and remember the memories that they had doing this mission and having a good time.
All right, thank you, Cadet.
Hello, what's your name and rank, and what is your position in this mission?
My name is Cadet Master Sergeant Margaret, and I'm the Caption Design Director of this mission.
What is your goals for this mission?
Some of my goals are just to create a patch that inspires together.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier, but just to reiterate it, the video you're watching is actually not live. We don't have the ability with these balloons, with the amount of weight that they can carry, to be able to have some type of transmission, either to satellites or back down to the space of a live video, like you might see like with a SpaceX rocket launch, which obviously can carry a lot more weight. So this is actually balloon 2 from last year. And so the balloons have 3 cameras on them, a top, a bottom, and a side. And so I did a multicam edit to be able to go between the different cameras on the balloon, but they're all balloon 2 of last year. However, what you're seeing on the screen would be very representative of what you'd be seeing if you could see a live shot. The weather is very similar. It's not identical, but it's pretty similar in Anderson, Indiana, as it was last year. So it'd be very similar to this.
Director, Cadet Harner. Together, they came up with a killer patch, written in a white heat of inspiration. Fortunately, the Sheriff's Department was able to help us in the filming of this experiment. Their drone pictures offered a great viewpoint for the video.
Hello, and welcome to Beaver County Composite Squadron 704's High Altitude Balloon Challenge.
I'm Cadet Senior Airman Tora Simons.
And I'm Cadet Master Sergeant Lily Carpenter.
Our Civil Air Patrol Squadron will be sending batteries, sprouts, yeast, cell structures, a bouncy ball, and gummy bears up on the balloon.
We will then study how the high altitude affects these 6 objects.
NERPA 310, much like Colonel Joseph Kittinger, is taking its highest step for science.
Hello, I am Cadet Captain Gabriel Simons, and I am here presenting our experiment on behalf of myself and Cadet Yassim Aloui. We were wondering, what would happen if you subjected a battery to the conditions of suborbital flight, such as solar radiation and extreme changes in temperature and air pressure. Our hypothesis that this is that this will negatively impact our battery's charge.
Senior Airman Denny in Civil Air Patrol, and I am here to educate you on sprouts and what happens to them if they go to high altitudes. I will see if it grows or if its cellular structure is compromised. I hypothesize that the sprout's growth will be stunted till proven otherwise.
Hello, I'm Cadet Second Lieutenant Denny from Civil Air Patrol. I have taken the responsibility of making bread. More specifically, if I can make bread to be light, filled with ionized particles, and a hint of radiation, or a beige brick of sadness.
Hi, I'm Cadet Airman First Class Simons, and I like gummy bears and space. So, I thought, gummy bear space. Since I can't fuse gummy and space, I chose sending a gummy to space. In this high altitude challenge, we will see if gummy
I'm not
bears
gonna
will
lie.
survive.
I like this.
Will
I
the
like this
structure
kid a
be
lot.
compromised?
He's funny.
Me and my scientists believe the gummy bear will become a sticky, gooey mess.
One high step for Squadron 704!
Hello, and welcome to the Great Lakes Region, Ohio 131, the Cuyahoga County Cadet Squadron, where inquisitive minds have been working on the 2024 CAP High Altitude Balloon Challenge.
An undertaking of this magnitude requires meticulous planning, extensive research, cosmic amounts of hard work, and of course, out-of-this-world teamwork.
From our lively brainstorming sessions, each cadet came up with 3 ideas for our payload, but we finalized on our top pick: protecting electronics from solar flares in outer space.
We learned about near-space experiments and high-altitude balloons. We also watched NASA videos and read about solar flares and EMIs.
We studied the various layers of the atmosphere, especially the stratosphere, where our payload in the balloon will be. This unfriendly environment is terrible for devices, and the radiation as well affects humans and devices.
Solar flares are bursts of radiations that release magnetic energy. These high energetic particles can cause electrical malfunctions, can affect Earth orbiting satellites, and can cause electronic malfunctions.
Our hypothesis is that Faraday fabrics will protect electronics from the damaging effects of electromagnetic interference, known as EMIs.
We wrote down all our supplies needed and time schedules to chose our technical advisors and ordered supplies from Tiny Circuits and Ahmed the Poly Company.
Faraday fabric is made by weaving fibers coated with metals like copper, nickel, or silver, and it effectively blocks EMIs from solar flares in space.
We programmed Arduino to collect data for temperature, humidity, pressure, VOCs, and voltage every 10 seconds and record it to an SD card. By comparing the data from the 2 experiments that we put in our payload, the one with the protection and the one without the protection, we would then be able to find if Faraday fabric is a good protection for EMIs for electronics.
Thank you for joining us on this exciting adventure. We are the Black Sheep!
In our current research phase,
We've discovered that cotton candy will undergo transformation into a gaseous state under the unique conditions of space. Our experiment uses a flight tube that reaches the edge of space, which is not under an extreme vacuum of space, providing an environment where we can observe how cotton candy reacts without reaching the complete vacuum, where the cotton candy would disintegrate. We expect the cotton candy to gradually lose its structural integrity in this controlled setting.
This investigation is not just about candy in space. It holds significant scientific implications. By studying the behavior of cotton candy in such extreme environments, we aim to deepen our understanding of material science and its application in aerospace technology. This research could potentially inform the development of materials that are more resilient to the rigors of space, contributing to advancements in space exploration and technology.
Alabama Squadron 090's patch design is full of symbolism and artistic choices that went through many iterations before the final submission, pulling together creativity in the required fields to produce a cohesive final product. For a brief overview, we will focus on the three main elements of any art piece: the background, the subject, and the foreground. The background, painted in black, represents the grand expanse.
Okay, real quick, this is maybe for the mission teams, if they're listening in. Looks like Balloon 3, looks like it's just dropped under 15,000 feet. So if there's aircrew in the area, have them be on the lookout. They might, if they're anywhere near the location, they might start seeing it coming from above them. The other balloons, it looks like they're still climbing. So looks like balloon 4120, which is balloon 1, I'm showing just under 100,000 feet right now. Balloon 2, which is 9210. Actually, I'll show this to you. Hang on. I want to make sure I show you the landing of this other balloon, but hang on, let's do that real quick. All right. Yeah, again, 9210 is balloon 2. And they're showing 25,731. Again, that's meters, not feet. So give or take 75,000 feet. And 4120 is balloon 1. And that's showing 28,750. So give or take right around 90,000 feet. Let's see. And balloon 3, which is 1840, now showing 4916. Trying to look at acceleration. Yeah, you can trying to see if it's climbing. So yes, if you see a balloon 3, acceleration is 0.127, which means it's coming down. It's not going up. Balloons 1 and 2 are still showing about a half a G acceleration, meaning that they are still going up. So let's take another quick look at this. I'll keep a track on these. I'll let you guys watch the landing of the other video. And no audio, we'll fix that.
Then because of the atmosphere, that's what kind of inspired us to put the dark blue and the stars in the background. We wanted to make it very, very special to represent our squadron. And then we all just kind of connected on the exploring new heights as a quote that it felt really like it represented our squadron and how we like exploring and we want to dive deep and find new information.
So we chose the watch to see if being up and not high, well, at a high altitude would cause any sort of time dilation between being down on Earth and high up. That's our hypothesis and also partly the reason we chose the watch.
The reason why we chose the film is mostly because it fit into a lot of people really requested film. So we want to know if the radiation from way up there will actually affect and if we could even...
Yeah, so while what we're showing on screen is not live, it's really indicative of what Balloon 3 is doing right now.
Hello. We're the Central Missouri Composite.
Because that's about 10,000 feet, which is about where Balloon 3 is right now.
Hey,
so that'd be pretty close to what Balloon 3 is seeing.
Our test tube here has a hole in the top so that airflow can go in and out to make sure that there's cool air. and to make sure there's pressure and it changes.
Sergeant Bro Merkel, and I have 7 grams of putty. We're going to see if the elasticity, pliability, and texture changes when it goes to altitude.
I'm Staff Sergeant Easter. We have a pack of Sting Relief, and we're going to see if the moisture changes when it comes back down for being so high up.
Tech Sergeant Hensley, and I have a thermometer here, and see if it's the same when it comes back down, as the temperature is the same as in the controlled test tube.
I am Master Sergeant Marcos, and we're going to experiment and see if the tape is still the same or still as sticky as...
While the data is not there for us, we can show the airplane. The airplane just took off.
And I have a battery. We put the battery inside the flashlight to make sure it works. It does. And we're going to send the battery up to space, and when it comes back down, we're going to make sure it still works.
Hello, I'm Tech Sergeant Clinky, and in my hand is a piece of gum, and in my left hand is 2 icebreakers and an Altoid. And essentially my experiment is to see if the taste will change based on the temperature change in altitude as the balloon goes up higher in the sky.
Hi, I'm Cadet Senior Emma McGraw, a member of Beckley Composite Squadron. To summarize our experiment, we're sending a slice of bread to space to study the growth of bacteria and mold. But wait, why is this important? As early as the launch of Sputnik, astrobiologists and astronomers have been considering the negative consequences of planetary contamination, basically when bacteria from one planet meets another. These concerns eventually led NASA to create the Planetary Quarantine Program in 1963, which oversaw the prevention of contaminating moon rocks brought from the Apollo missions. Later in 1967, the Planetary Quarantine Program evolved into the Office of Planetary Protection. As residents of a planet full of easily spreadable pathogens, it is important that we ensure that everything launched into space is kept clean and sterilized. By studying the growth and survival of bacteria in high-altitude conditions, we can better understand the impact that space has on these pathogens. Of course, doing any science experiment requires the use of the scientific method. Starting with the question, does the rate/number of bacteria and mold growing on a slice of white bread change depending on the atmospheric pressure, temperature, and altitude compared to being on the ground? Next is some background research on the subject. I've compiled a few articles that helped me better understand a few aspects of the experiment, such as these following molds are typically the molds found growing on bread, and this bacteria. Lastly, 2 of the balloons set up during last year's experiment reached an altitude just above 100,000 feet, essentially on the edge of space, which leads us to our hypothesis. Cutting a single slice of white bread in half, we believe that the bread sent up, or test group, will have noticeably less molded bacteria growth compared to the bread on the ground, our control group, due to being exposed to extremely low temperatures, far below our control group. Setting up the experiment, we start by cutting a slice of white bread in half. And spraying both sides with water to promote bacteria and mold growth.
Just real quick, I can notice here that balloon 1 has definitely popped, and it is on its way down. It is showing, it's probably too small for you guys to see it, but I'm going to leave the balloon up because I want to see you guys see this land. It's showing 16,000 meters. So it's definitely on the way down. We can see again, the acceleration is 0.168 Gs. If it was still climbing, it would be about half a G. The balloon 2, interesting enough, is still climbing. Looking at the G at a G rating of 0.465, which means it's still going up, and it is at 27,000 feet. So it is climbing, and it's kind of slowed its climb. It's kind of hanging out a bit, which is kind of neat. All right, let's watch this landing.
Their experiment. It's important to understand some fundamental concepts about magnetism. Moving charged particles create a magnetic force. For something to be magnetic, the atoms have to line up in such a way that the electrons in the material all have the same general motion. Permanent magnets are characterized by the atoms being aligned so that the electrons mimic the flow of electricity. All permanent magnets are called dipoles because they have two opposite sides, the north and the south pole. And when a magnet is cut in half, the atoms in each separate piece realign so that each piece has a north and a south pole. Not all atoms in a material need to align to make a magnet. The more atoms that align, the stronger the magnetic force. We feel this experiment was unique because of the following. According to Gauss's law of magnetism, a one-bar magnet doesn't exist. In this year's high-altitude balloon challenge, we're excited to experiment with the effects of the high-altitude environment has on magnets. To prepare for this competition, we participated in a class with Dr. Elizabeth Belcher, the assistant professor of psychological science at Hobart and William Smith Colleges. She advised us with step-by-step instructions on how to appropriately develop a hypothesis and an experiment. We learned.
All right, let's take a quick look at this while it's landing. We'll get rid of these. Oops, wrong one. There we go. As you can see, it's coming down quickly. There it goes. Whoosh, right in the corns. This is why we like Indiana. So, lots and lots of corn, lots and lots of soy. Let's see, we'll pause it here for now. Let's see. Oh, okay. If this were to continue over the next 20 minutes, you would eventually see a really funny, a cadet pops her head into the camera view, like in the middle of the corn, like you're just watching the corn, like his head pops through the corn, which is great. So we'll do now. Let's see, what is the altitude for balloon 1 again? Let's see where it currently is. Hang on. Let's do that together. Let's see here. That's the one that's not updating. Let's hit refresh. Balloon 1 is 4120, which is this one here. And so it is currently at 12,853 meters, give or take 35,000 feet. 2, which is 92. I think balloon 2 just popped. The G-force is below 4.5. I think that is less altitude than it had before. Right now it's showing 25,306, and I think it was like 2750 before. For the folks that are listening to me at the mission base, I am still getting data on the console. If we take a look at balloon 3, which is 1840, and maybe that's what they're asking me. 1840 is no longer giving me any data. Let me see if the last data we have from 1840 was when it was about 4,000 or 5,000 feet. And its Latin long is here. So I'm going to say this out loud for the mission base. I don't know if we're going to get any more data once it's below 4,000 or 5,000 feet. Hopefully we do. As of right now, latitude is 40, 20, 72. Longitude is minus 84, 56, 19. So again, 40, 20, 72, 84, 56, 19. We'll see if that updates. Looks like that's all we're getting for that one right now. Let's see what the other ones are doing. Let's see. Balloon 1 appears to be at about 30,000 feet. Balloon 2 appears to be at about 75,000 feet. And our technical teams are continuing to look at this to see if we can determine why we are not getting updates. Oops. So like this. Why we're not getting updates to this. This way we can get the mapping back. Hopefully we'll get an answer for that at some point. All right, so what we're going to do is there's no more video to look at for the balloon unless we want to look at the corn. So let's go, and the data is not really playing well with us right now. So let's go ahead and let's just watch the pre-launch videos. What I'd like to do is, actually I can bring myself back on. What I can do is go ahead and ask any questions that you may have. Looks like my hair has gotten fluffier in the last 2 hours. Go ahead and if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in. It seems like we still have about 60 units, individuals on the live stream. We're doing good. We've had 670 folks have watched the video so far, so that's great. One thing I'm going to ask, if you're here, go ahead and if you're a member of CAP or if you're not a member of CAP, you want to see stuff like this, go ahead and do the whole YouTube thing. Like, subscribe, make a comment. It does help get around. As of last I checked, I think if you search, if you go on YouTube and you go into the search bar and you type in aerospace education, I think this is still the #1 channel, even though we haven't done a ton of new videos on here in a while. We have some new stuff that we're planning on putting up that I think people will like. So go ahead and subscribe, throw that bell on. When new stuff comes on, you'll see it. If you are a CAP member, especially if you're a cadet, go ahead and look at the channel itself. A couple of years ago, during the whole COVID thing, we put up a whole bunch of videos for all of the aerospace dimension modules to help you study for those tests. Those are still good. Those are still valid. So even though they're a couple years old now, feel free to look at those. And if you think that those are helpful for you, let your fellow cadets know about them. Help them out. They do track right in line with what's on the tests, as well as what is being taught in the dimensions modules. With that, let's go ahead and go back to the pre-launch videos, and I'll try to answer your questions online. And I know you don't have audio yet.
It is important to know if the spatial environment will deteriorate these bands and therefore make them unusable while in space.
Hi, I'm Cadet Senior Airman Smith, and my experiment was the effect of the high altitude environment on chemical stability of the bromothymol blue pH indicator. My hypothesis was that the pH indicator would present as more acidic after it had come down. My inspiration for this experiment was because I'm a lifeguard and I do keep
one thing. Actually, I wanted to hear a thing with the lifeguard thing, but this is going to be important. So for the mission base, we did get an update from Balloon 3 1840. So I'm going to show that real quick. You're probably seeing it, you as well. This is saying about 1,000 feet off the ground, so it'll be pretty close to this environment when it lands, if it hasn't already landed. We'll look for a final ping from it in a second. But right now it's showing 40.2057, longitude minus 84.5429. Again, 40.2057, longitude 84.5429. I'm not certain if you're seeing this in mission base. If you are, have one of the staff from my team, whether Susan or Liz or Nick, have them send me a text message. Let me know you are seeing this, and then I won't bother coming back to it. But just in case you are not seeing it. It does, while we're here, let's go look at the other balloons. It looks like 9210, which is balloon 2, is at about 45,000 feet. It's definitely coming down. We can see that the G load is not minus, but it's otherwise it'd be going upside down, is 0.22. And then 4120, which is balloon 1, is roughly 24,000 feet. Again, a G load acceleration is actually pretty interesting. I'm wondering if the pod actually flipped upside down, because the G load is 0.536, almost like being pulled down. Let's see here. So yeah, so those are coming down. Let's go back to our pre-launch videos.
Guards Composite Squadron. I would like to give a special thanks to Cadet Clausen. He's been a great help and a major player for our project here. I'd also like to thank Chief Harrell in working on the camera for this video.
Hello, I'm Staff Sergeant Smith. I am a flight sergeant within the squadron. I want to give a big thanks to all the cadets that helped throughout this project, and thank you.
For the past few weeks, cadets in the 121st Rickenbacker Air National Guard Composite Squadron have been hard working on the High Altitude Air Balloon Challenge. With this, we have put together a variety of materials we would like to experiment with. Some of these materials include a plan to see how radiation would change and to see the effects of low pressure on a popcorn piece.
For our mission patch is composed of 6 main components: the HAPC 2024 logo, the official Civil Air Patrol logo, our region wing, and squadron number. The 121st Rickenbacker Composites Air National Guard Squadron patch on the balloon to represent our home squadron. A constellation of the KC-135 as a squadron, as the squadron is numbered off of the ANG 121 Rickenbacker Refueling Squadron, and the Earth and its stratosphere, the second most layered to the Earth, as this is where the experiment tube will be sent.
So for materials, we decided to select 2 magnets because we want to see how space will lose magneticism. For pennies, we wanted to see if the pennies would lose their shine as they were up. 2 leaves and pieces of moss because we'd like to see how radiation would affect them. We also included a soda tab to see if anything would happen with radiation against the tin. A battery because we would like to see if the radiation would expose the battery to lower temperatures and ruin it. Laminated paper because we would like to see if the sun rays will dilute the ink. A piece of popcorn because we would like to see if the air pressure change would do anything to it. A popcorn kernel to see if the radiation could cause it to pop. And fruit snacks to see if the pressure will boil them. A notebook piece of paper because we'd like to see how it would be affected by the sun rays and radiation. Styrofoam because we would like to see it would boil under the pressure.
With all of these experiments, we hope to research the effects of high altitude radiation, the effects of low pressure, and the effects of low temperature environments. We are excited to see what these next months hold for us. Thank you.
This is Dane Cadet Squadron's pre-launch video for Civil Air Patrol's 2024 High Altitude Balloon Challenge. This year we created a hand-drawn mission patch. The colors of our mission patch represent the blue and gold of Delaware Wings patch, but it also represents the bright sun and the darkness of space. The parachuting man represents Colonel Joe Kittinger's space jump. He's the inspiration for our mission patch design. The top border is a quote from Colonel Kittinger. We were breaking barriers, we were setting new goals and exceeding those goals. Along the bottom border, the artist added her own text, which states, "We will accomplish what we set out to do." We believe that our patch fully represents our determination to complete the mission. Part of the mission was having an understanding about the differences in the conditions on Earth and at the edge of space. We learned that the stratosphere is extremely cold, that there is no pressure so molecules will expand, that there is no humidity so things could possibly dry out, that our items will be exposed to higher radiation, and that there would be quite a bit of turbulence, especially when our items fall back to Earth. We were tasked with finding experiments that would fit inside the capsules, that didn't contain liquids, that didn't require...
One of the questions that was asked was, what balloon went the highest? I don't know. I believe given the fact that balloon 3 was the lightest weight, my assumption is that balloon 3 probably went the highest. I did see, I'm pretty certain I saw it get to about 100,000 feet. And before it started coming down, I did not see the top altitude of the other 2 balloons, unfortunately. When we get all the data back, we will go ahead and we will see that. I will tell you that I think the ground team, I heard a little bit of background from the mission team. I think they're pretty close to launching the ground team. I have a member of the ground team that's actually connected into our live link. Right now, they don't have video on or audio. They're just connected in. So when they're all set up and they start doing their thing and turn the video on, we'll bring you guys into that.
Our experiments.
Hello, I am Cadet Senior Master Sergeant Klein.
And I'm Cadet Airman Orden of Eglin Composite Squadron 423.
Our goal for this challenge is to evaluate and learn new things about how and what is affected by space and its environment. As a team, we are working together to expand our knowledge about high-altitude environments.
Thank you, Colonel Joseph Kittinger, for creating this fun and very educational challenge for us cadets.
For this challenge, our squadron is sending 6 experiment subjects: marshmallows,
rubber band balls,
bubble wrap,
acrylic paint,
spinach seeds,
and batteries.
We believe that the environmental factors such as radiation, temperature, and low pressures will change the characteristics of these items?
We expect that the marshmallows will come back very dry due to the possibility of moisture evaporating out because of the lower boiling point at low pressure.
For our rubber band ball, we expect that they will become brittle and lose strength.
We also sent up bubble wrap to study whether the bubbles will expand or expand and pop due to the decreasing pressure at altitude.
We put acrylic paint on cotton swabs to study if...
Yeah, I wanted to cut back over here for a second. It looks like the CAP aircraft is now circling. Let's see here. And maybe some of you were watching the data a little bit closer. Some of you have some ideas about the altitudes. So it'll be interesting to see if your hypothesis on their heights are close to being accurate. We always shoot for 100,000 feet. 100,000 feet for these types of balloons is actually really high. We have to actually kind of work at it to try to get these things close to 100,000 feet. Anytime they cross 100,000 feet, that's like a big milestone for these types of balloons. And so we usually will get close to 100,000 feet, and we celebrate if we can get something over 100,000 feet. But going back, we look at the aircraft. They are definitely circling now, which means maybe they saw something. So we'll keep an eye on them.
Represent the collaboration between cadets and senior members in aerospace education.
Hello, I'm Cadet Captain Ben Gross.
And I'm Cadet Second Lieutenant Joey Heupel, and we are the team leads for the Sprinkle Composite Squadron.
Alright, for our experiment, we are sending seeds to the edge of space. Why? Because in long-term space exploration, people have to eat, and they can't exactly go to the grocery store. As you may know, astronauts on the ISS are already growing food, but they are in pressurized, temperature-regulated environments and in zero gravity. We want to know if it would be possible to grow seeds that have flown, but are now going to grow in normal gravity and in unpressurized containers. For instance, would you rather eat this tomato or this dehydrated tomato that's sent to space, or this cantaloupe versus this freeze-dried cantaloupe? You get the point.
We are trying to figure out if seeds that have been launched to the edge of space can grow so we can keep astronauts happy with fresh food. During their flight, they'll be exposed to solar radiation, lower atmospheric pressure, and sub-zero temperatures. Our hypothesis is the seeds will naturally have small amounts of water in them, which will cause them to freeze as they're exposed to such temperatures. We also think that some of them will rupture due to being in a lower pressure environment.
We built the experiment by putting in layers of cotton balls and different types of seeds in between them, including beans, squash, pumpkins, cantaloupe, cucumber, sweet corn, and tomatoes. We will then receive the 98 seeds back from the launch facility, 49 in the test tube, 49 in the control tube, and we will put them in seed starters that have been hydrated all together in one big pot of water. These are the starters. This one, of course, is...
Hey, something happened. We got data back. So that's yay. All right. Very good. So it looks like pod 3, yeah, it's showing 981, right? And if we remember the beginning of the live stream, the ground was at about 1,000 feet, 890 feet. So that's probably on the ground. 95 degrees. Let's see. We've got pod 1, balloon 1, 4120 is at 7,000 feet. So it's getting pretty close to being on the ground. And balloon 2 is at 21,000 feet, 41 degrees, much cooler at 20,000 feet. And yeah, so it looks like we're getting some data. So let's go ahead and let's zoom in. And they are all significantly in different places. Mind you, this is how interesting it is. These things launched 15 seconds from each other, but depending on exactly how much gas was in the balloon, exactly how much weight, they got into different air at some point. And so they ended up landing in, fairly significantly different places. So we do have 3 ground teams. So this is great. I am going to go back to the pre-launch videos just for a second, but I'm going to leave this up. And I'm going to be contacting our mission base. I want to make sure they understand this data is available again. I'll be right back.
outside disturbances. Finally, the mission patch representing our team was completed. We chose a hand-drawn medium for the patch because it better highlights the creativity and human element that goes into the HABC as a whole. The balloon basket is a popcorn bucket to represent Valparaiso because our town is famous for being where Orville Redenbacher invented his popcorn. In the middle of the popcorn bucket is an SD card to represent the main piece of our experiment. On the top of the patch is written HABC 2024, and on the bottom is a banner emblazoned with our unit charter number and the name of our town. The patch shape is reminiscent of the Indiana Wing patch, and in the middle of the balloon, the Civil Air Patrol logo is shown. The space view of Earth was chosen for a background of the patch to symbolize the near-space voyage the balloon will take.
We would like to say thank you to our collaborators and senior mentors for their help in coordinating our team's efforts. And I would like to say thank you to our team members for the work they have put in. And finally, we would like to thank the National HAB Challenge coordinators for enabling our curious minds to reach for the stars.
All right, so it looks like balloon 1 is at about 10, nope, no longer in meters. Now it's telling me feet. So it looks like balloon 1 is just about 3,000 feet. This was 2 minutes ago, so I'm sure it's below 3,000 feet now. Right outside of Sydney, Ohio. We also noticed that balloon 3 was very nice to us. It landed right outside the airport. So, right outside the Dark County Airport. And we've got balloon 2 is on the east side of Sydney, Ohio. And it's about 13,000 feet now.
Which we think may expand or shrink.
I am Cadet Major Milliman, and I will be describing how the Mission Patch team came up with their design. They started with the background, creating outer space, including stars and a planet in the background. Then, they added a high-altitude balloon, carrying experiments to the edge of space. Lastly, they wrote the name of the patch and included the Anderson Composite Squadron charter number to signify what squadron the patch comes from. This patch shows how awe-inspiring space is and what an amazing opportunity it is to experiment with the environment of space.
This is the third year Granite Cadet Squadron has participated in the High Altitude Balloon Challenge. Some of us have joined in the last year, and this is our first opportunity to participate. Others have experience from previous years, but all of us agree that having an opportunity to develop and send experiments to the stratosphere is awesome.
Let's talk about the challenge. CAP cadets from all over the country are participating. We will create and pack science projects into 2 identical test tubes. One tube will remain on the ground and will serve as the control. The other tube will be attached to a balloon and sent more than 100,000 feet into the atmosphere. The items in the test tube will be exposed to changes in temperature, pressure, and radiation.
Granite Cadet Squadron has decided to do multiple experiments. We brainstormed a lot of ideas. After doing some independent research, we met again to discuss our findings and vote on which experiments will go into the tube. We chose items that will be affected by pressure and radiation.
We are sending popcorn kernels and marshmallows in our test tube. We hypothesize that when the pressure decreases, the molecules will expand, therefore causing the popcorn kernels to pop and the marshmallows to become larger.
All right, so it looks like balloon 1 is now on the ground. So if we zoom into there, and of course, every time it updates, it recenters it. Let's see here. Yeah, so they're on the ground. So balloon 1 and balloon 3 is on the ground. Balloon 2 is halfway between Sydney and Quincy, Ohio. Currently at about 76,000 feet and coming down.
Fantastic job creating this work of art. We were able to include many of our science experiments into the patch. Since we are sending sea dragons, our main focus is a dragon. Our motto is never give up. This is such a great science motto, and is also a reference to a song on our SD card that we were sending into the tube. We also found a fun way to incorporate a thermometer.
Hello, everyone.
I am Cadet Senior Airman Bibby.
I am Cadet Airman First Class Breyer.
I am Cadet Lieutenant Colonel at Hilo Valley.
I'm Cadet Sheridan Valley.
I'm Cadet Staff Sergeant Jack Hutchinson.
I am Cadet Airman First Class Alexis Novicki.
I'm Cadet Captain Justin Sweet.
Chief Master Sergeant Benjamin Tessier.
And we are the 102nd Composite Squadron.
We have contained 5 separate metals.
Now, some may wonder if they're looking at the CAP aircraft, they are flying around an airport because I don't know if you can see my mouse move a little bit here, but I actually make full screen. Let's see, Mac full screen. The balloon looks like it came down about where my mouse is, just a little bit off the, just a little bit off the runway. So it's a beautiful day, Saturday. So I'm certain there's probably other aircraft that are probably doing training and practicing touch and goes. So our aircraft is actually above pattern altitude right now. They've been coming down, but they came from about 8,000 or 10,000 feet, it looks like, and they slowly came down. So they're going to have a really good understanding, and they're going to be talking with the other aircraft that are in the pattern. So just in case somebody's worried about, hey, what's the CAP going to be doing while it's over an airport? No big deal. We do search and rescue type activities all the time near airports. Where's an ELT likely to be going off? It's likely to be going off because somebody bounced a landing at an airport. So this is pretty normal for us. So just want to point that out real quick. Let's see. Any other questions from the chat while we're here? Let me pull up this. We've got about 3,000 feet left and that's 3,000 feet above sea level. So it's only got about 2,000 feet left before it hits the ground. So it'll touch down. This was a minute ago. So it's probably just about touching down now. Maybe 15, 20, 30 seconds from now. So let's see where it is. Yeah, so it's just about in the middle of Quincy and Sydney. Pemberton, and of course, new data, and it resets the map. Let's go ahead and look out. So just out of curiosity, let's go ahead and take a look. Excuse me. So the balloons were launched about 15 seconds apart from each other, and you can see the significant difference in distance that they traveled. Again, all having to do with how much gas you put in the balloon, how much the balloons weigh, just a little tiny bit of differences. In balloon 1 and balloon 2, I think we're pretty close to the same weight. they held their altitudes pretty close to each other for quite a while. They were within 1,000, 2,000 feet of each other for quite a while. So even that little bit of difference can really make quite a bit of difference as to where these balloons are going to go, which is why if you are doing this yourself, it's really good when you use a predictive analysis tool. And let me know in the chat if you'd be interested in me reviewing how the predictive analysis tools work. I won't be able to do it live for this, but I can make a separate video if anybody's interested in seeing how predictive analysis work. But it's really important to give yourself a really wide berth, a really big circle around that predictive analysis, because it could land. It's those reviews just give you kind of a heads up of roughly where it's going to go. It's not going to say, hey, it's going to land at 123 Sesame Street. Doesn't work that way. So let's see here. I'm going to say that balloon 2 is back on the ground. And I do see some folks saying that they would like to see how the predictive analysis tool works. So I'll tell you what, probably in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to do a couple things in the next couple of weeks. We have the national conference coming up. The national AE team wants to have a video kind of showcasing a lot of this for a little 90-second or so clip, showcasing a lot of this prior to that. So we'll try to put out a video, which is kind of like the greatest hits reel from this whole thing. That'll have video footage from inside the airplanes, the ground teams, the drones, SUAS. It'll have a lot more that we just can't do live. And if we can get the video streams uploaded from the balloons in time, as you can imagine, the data from the balloons it's massive. It's a massive amount of data. So if they're able to get that uploaded in the next couple of days and make it into the video, that'll be there as well. The video that you guys were watching from last year that I put together, I'm going to go ahead and release that probably tonight. And so this way you can use that video if you want to just watch in the background. You want to see, or if you want to go back and just see what it's like at 100,000 feet. What does the Earth look like up there? You can do so. And then when we get all the balloon data, we'll be sending out a link to where all that's going to sit. I will create a separate video in a couple of weeks. I'll just walk through the predictive analysis tool, how that works. I'll show you how to look at different wind speeds. A lot of the tools that you look at have wind speeds up to like 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 feet, which is kind of the limits to where most airplanes fly. There is other sites you can go to that give you the 80,000, 100,000 jet stream type data. We'll show you that. And then once all that balloon video footage comes in, the video that you saw today from last year, I'll make a version of that for balloons 1 and 2. I'm not going to worry about balloon 3 because your stuff wasn't in balloon 3. But I'll make a version of that for balloon 1 and 2, and I'll get that up online as well in a couple weeks. What we are doing now is we are waiting for the ground team. The ground team is connected into our Teams meeting, but their video is off and their audio is off. But they are connected. So when we are going to go back to the pre-launch videos, and I'm going to just leave it there until the ground team comes on. We're going to watch one of the ground teams capture one of the balloons. I'm assuming it's going to be balloon 3. And once we see that for that one, we are probably going to go ahead and wrap up the live stream for today. And we will have the video footage of all the ground teams once they all upload their videos to our Google Drive site. So before we go back to, also the pre-launch videos, we are now a little over 3 hours into almost 3.5 hours into the live stream. There was about 3 hours of pre-launch videos that I was able to download. So we may start repeating some of them now. So if you start looking and say, I already saw this one, that's because we have about 3 hours of pre-launch videos that have been submitted, and we're at about 3.5 hours now. So you may see a repeat of the videos. So go ahead in the chat if you have any questions for me If there's any questions you would like to know, even if I don't know the answer to it, I'll try to get you an answer. Go ahead and post that. I will stay online, and I'll leave the live stream running up until we get video from the ground team at the Balloon 3, I believe. So let me know. Thanks, everybody.
And distinguish our patch, which is all digitally drawn between Earth and Mars.
Allergies are commonplace on Earth. Epinephrine can be the difference between life or death for over 100 million people in the USA alone. In space, people still get exposed to allergens like lunar dust. Currently, epinephrine has a solid and a liquid form. The liquid form of epinephrine can be used in the form of a needle. But in 2018, a new solid form was introduced, which has been proven to be highly effective.
Our HAPC team is hopeful to learn about the effects of high altitudes on the effectiveness of epinephrine.
By testing epinephrine, we're hoping to open the door to have more people live in space with confidence with epinephrine for their medical needs.
Hello, this is the Thunderbolt Composite Squadron, and we are competing in the 2024 High Altitude Balloon Challenge. On the left, we have
Cadet Rohit Sridhar, Cadet Janani Sridhar,
Cadet Myers,
Cadet Satish Kumar,
Cadet Young. I'm Cadet Young, and I recently conducted an experiment focused on testing the durability of PLA, a commonly used plastic in 3D printing. Our experiment utilized a 3D printer to create cylindrical objects, which then we tested for durability. To evaluate the strength and resilience of PLA, we used a vise to bend these 3D printed cylinders until they broke. This process allowed us to measure how much stress the material could withstand before failing.
In this experiment, we will be testing the effects that the outer space conditions has on the soil's capability for water retention. This helps us to understand how plants will be able to grow in these outer space conditions.
We will be sending a dense sponge such as this into outer space in our capsule to test and simulate the human tissue's behavior under the extreme temperature and pressure that we see in outer space to help us as humans who are looking forward to space exploration.
We're sending up different fabrics to test how the material reacts in microgravity. The fabrics might shrink, change color, or even become more brittle. Understanding these changes in space is crucial for designing durable clothing and materials for astronauts, ensuring their comfort and safety.
In this experiment, we will be testing the oxidation rate differences in metals that have been sent to space versus staying here on Earth. This will help us understand on what type of metals we should make our spaceships out of to ensure the safety of the astronaut. This patch represents the different experiments we will be testing in the High Altitude Balloon Challenge. There are elements of each experiment within the design, such as the screws, the sponge, the t-shirt, and the potted plant.
In this experiment, I'll be testing the biological differences with yeast in space versus on Earth and how the vacuum-like environment can affect our samples. This is to ensure that we keep our astronauts physically healthy through the food they eat and to keep their organs in good shape while on their missions.
Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe.
I'm not gonna lie, that was pretty good.
This is the Middletown Cadet Squadron. I am Master Sergeant Ruiz, and this is the pre-launch video for the HABC. Next up, we're going to be explaining the experiments that we're going to send up.
So my experiment is the copper wire. Right now, I am cutting open the copper wire to expose it to the elements and test it, where we're gonna hook it up to a light bulb and a battery to see if the wire actually conducts electricity. And then when it comes back down from the balloon, we're going to test it again, see if there's any difference.
So another experiment that we have is the magnet. Our hypothesis is it will lose its magnetism in space, and when it comes back, how we will test it is we'll just have another magnet and see if it still works or not.
So basically this is yeast. For those of you who don't know, this stuff is alive. It's like cells basically. And Google thought that when I send it to space, it's just gonna have super high radiation exposure because the atmosphere isn't protecting it anymore. I agree with that. And I think that honestly, I don't think that we're gonna be able to see anything visibly different within the yeast, but internally, I think they'll all just die. And yeah.
So my hypothesis is that when this goes up, the radiation will melt it, and I'm expecting the texture to change as well as the taste because of the radiation and the radioactivity from the sun.
Today I'm going to talk about the slime that we're going to send to space. I think it's going to change because it has a smell of green apple. It's probably going to like shrink and become rough as a rock, or it's just going to stay the same but with a different smell, and that's what I think.
And now we're going to be explaining our patch design.
This is our high altitude balloon challenge patch. Each star represents one of the squadrons in Delaware, and we've got the cap logo and the high altitude balloon in the top right with the Mid-Atlantic region Delaware 025, which is Middletown, at the top.
Thank you for watching this video, and I hope we succeed in the high altitude balloon challenge.
We are the Homestead Air Reserve Base Cadet Squadron, also known as the MACOs. We are excited to participate in the 2024 High Altitude Balloon Challenge. Our overall team of 24 cadets consists of a lab team, a media team, and a design team, and together we have been having a great time brainstorming, testing, and selecting our science experiments, sketching and designing patches, and putting together our media package over the past few weeks. Our science experiments will revolve around UV activated paint samples and the effects that high ultraviolet exposure may have on the paint pigments, the possible degradation of the paint polymers, color effectiveness and intensity itself, Instax photofilm, and the possible effects on the dye pigment of the film caused by high UV exposure and extreme temperature changes, rubber bands, and the possible effects extreme temperature changes and high UV exposure can have on the elasticity.
I'm Chief Master Sergeant Valentine, and this is the Mako design team, and in the middle we have the Mako media team.
So I'm the lab team leader, and this is the
lab team.
So we're working on different experiments to put in our valves, and when we come back with those experiments, we'll test them and see how the reactions of the experiments and how they change and how they are.
We're looking forward to receive our vials and get to work analyzing the results. We wish all the teams participating good luck.
The universe is extremely complex. In this universe, galaxies form and spread. Humans plan to build colonies on the Moon and Mars. Emergency personnel work together to help communities after natural disasters, and the Tokyo subway system continues to grow.
Hi! We're Rally Weight Composite Squadron from the North Carolina wing.
We are curious about life, the universe, and everything. We are fascinated by strange systems in which simple parts when working together show a new, emergent behavior. During our research process, we came across a headline: slime molds. No brains, no feet, no problem. We learned that slime mold, a single-celled organism without brain or nervous system, can demonstrate complex behavior. It can learn, remember, and make decisions. In one experiment, slime mold grew into a map of the Tokyo subway system. We wanted to know how the near space environment affects slime mold's functioning. We met with an expert from NC Near Space to find out more about in-flight conditions. We learned how temperature, radiation, and pressure all change in flight. Slime mold loves warm, humid, and dark places, but the flight will be scorching hot on the ground, freezing cold at altitude, with dry air and blinding light. Our hypothesis is that the slime mold will survive the near space environment, but exposure to high altitude will negatively affect its functioning. Theory will only take you so far. We immediately ran into problems. We had to figure out how to switch slime mold from petri dishes to capsules effectively. We poured agar slants, we 3D printed frames, and used other methods. Another problem was that slime mold grew too fast, colonizing the entire petri dish in a few days and then escaping. We tried many ways to slow its growth without harming it. We had to learn sterile lab techniques to avoid contaminating and killing our mold.
We also had problems coming up with the patch design. We got attached to an ambitious patch design too quickly. Everyone in the team came together to form the patch design you see right now. Our patch reflects our experiment in various ways to the important elements, like the petri dish,
which we later changed to also represent the Earth,
the near space environment, the cap logo, and of course, the slime mold. We're also all on here as stars.
Just how slime mold is always hungry for oatmeal flakes and, as recently discovered, Doritos, we are hungry for answers, and we can't wait to find out.
Hello, I'm Cadet Captain Wegemer. I'm from the Lake Hood Squadron, and we're participating in the High Altitude Balloon Challenge. We made a mission patch representing Lake Hood, representing Alaska for the High Altitude Balloon Challenge. So we have different parts. We have parts from our squadron patch like the Brown Bear and the Big Dipper. How we started this patch was we collaborated with the whole team and we decided on a few things that we wanted to have in the patch, such as a white balloon. We drew it out with some ideas, and we also had a few different variations. We used Canva to create the patch. We reviewed it a few times using the rubric to make sure we had all the necessary parts, and then we made the final version, which is this version right here.
Our mission is to send our experiments to a high altitude to observe the effects of radiation and low pressure on different materials.
So who am I speaking with?
Hi, I'm Chief Master Sergeant Dominic Brunel.
Okay, and what are you sending up?
I'm sending up this small battery.
Okay. Why did you pick that item?
I picked it because there were a whole bunch of ideas, and this is...
what do you think will happen sending it up?
I think it will come down with a lower voltage than what it started with.
Here with Cadet Airman First Class Kubosh.
And what are you sending up?
I am sending up a watch.
And why'd you pick this?
I picked this because we'll see if it changes the time on the watch by maybe like half a second, or it might just like lose charge and stop working.
What's next? Hi, who am I here with?
I'm Cadet Technical Sergeant Engelbert.
And what are you sending up?
I'm sending up these marshmallows. Yeah.
Why'd you pick them?
Because I think they're gonna like be really cool in space and explode.
Hi, who am I here with?
I'm Cadet Second Lieutenant Engelbert.
And what are you sending up?
I chose to send up some seeds.
And why'd you pick it?
We picked it, we want to see how the radiation and cold affect the seeds and what's going to happen to them when we plant them.
And what's your hypothesis?
I think that maybe some of the more hardy plants might grow, but they might take a little longer to start, and some of them might not grow at all.
In return, we'll draw conclusions based on the differences between the test and control practices.
Lake Hood!
We're sending multiple things up in the high altitude balloon. One of them is tomato seeds. We're going to be sending up non-GMO and GMO seeds to see if the weather or temperature affects each of them differently.
Our first hypothesis is, if we send both GMO and non-GMO seeds into a high altitude environment, then the seeds will not germinate.
And my experiment is on bacteria to see if the cosmic rays will affect the bacteria or if the gravitational pull will impact in a certain way compared to Earth.
For this experiment, I'll be taking ointment to see if it'll slow down or kill out bacteria that's contained with it.
Our third hypothesis is mold and bacteria will not grow in a high altitude environment if antibiotic free is present in the test tube.
what exactly are you going to be testing?
Well, our team is going to be testing how radiation, low pressure, and high altitude, as well as cold temperatures, impact the growth of both marigold and tomatoes.
Very cool. Why would that be useful information to have?
Well, as humanity continues to progress technologically and we start exploring space, it's going to become very important to realize how microgravity conditions in space impact the growth of plants. So when we add ascent on Mars, we need to grow produce, we need to know how plants are growing.
What kind of research are you doing to prepare for this experiment?
Well, so our team, we're looking over the radiation levels in the experiment site, and we're also looking over how radiation and low pressure impact plants.
How are you going to check for change? When we receive those plants back from the weather balloon, how are you going to know if they change?
Well, so we're first going to do a control. So we're going to grow some tomatoes on Earth in soil conditions, and then we're going to grow the seeds that are in space, and we're going to compare like the rate of growth, how long it took, and the overall crop to determine how the conditions in space affect it.
Thank you for your time. You made an absolutely incredible patch. It's blown up online, it's all over the media. Where did you find your inspiration?
Well, our patch was designed inspired by our experience. So it features like sunflowers and tomatoes. We used pictures of it, and then like the layers of the earth and the sky and the atmosphere. That's what we did.
That's awesome. Thank you. Why did you choose to do digital over hand drawn?
Because none of us have the necessary skills to be able to translate our ideas onto paper, and doing digitally allows us to better create that.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It's a very complex design, so good job.
For the 2024 High Altitude Balloon Challenge, our squadron, Fort Vancouver Composite Squadron WA080, designed a unique patch. We started by analyzing patches from NASA, SpaceX, and others to find inspiration for shapes that evoke space exploration. We chose a modified relics triangle, shaped like an arrowhead to represent a rocket. The patch features symbols for alpha, beta, and gamma radiation around the border, reflecting our experiments with radiation exposure. Instead of depicting moldy food, we illustrated a loaf of bread attached to a balloon with the slogan, "A Taste of Space." We were able to incorporate the Civil Air Patrol logo into the balloon, making it the centerpiece. The background shows Earth with a purple glow and a starry sky, capturing the essence of space. This design reflects our mission and creativity for the challenge.
Here we have cadets collecting and packaging moldy cheese for our first experiment. We choose this experiment to see the effects that a lack of oxygen and possible radiation had on the cheese mold.
The second experiment the cadets chose was moldy rice. Similar to the cheese idea, we wanted to see the effects that the vacuum of space and the lack of oxygen would have on the mold. This is a different kind of mold compared to the cheese. It would be interesting to see if there were any differences between the two molds.
Our third experiment is a radiation strip. We really wanted to see the differences in the amount of radiation in space versus on Earth. This will give us a good idea of how much our Earth protects us against these harmful rays.
The cadets' fourth experiment was a micro SD card loaded with a few photos from our squadron. The cadets wanted to see the effects that the cosmic rays had on digital photos and see if anything got corrupted after a return to Earth.
Our fifth and final experiment was sourdough starter. The cadets wanted to see if the vacuum space and potential radiation would kill the yeast organisms. After it got back, we would attempt to make bread out of it. The cadets made a slogan for the possible space bread.
Like a square, a circle. It can.
I'm Cadet Tech Sergeant Davia, and I helped design the High Altitude Balloon Squadron patch for Bud Jackson Composite Squad. In the patch, there was balloons carrying a test tube to signify the high altitude balloon that carried our test tube, which had our samples in it. On top of the test tube, there were seeds, litmus paper, aluminum foil, and chapstick to represent 4 of the experiments that we sent in the test tube. In addition, in the background of the squadron patch, we had the background of space, because as one thinks of high altitudes, they think of space. Also, the border of our squadron patch was red and orange to signify the colors of the Phoenix, which is our squadron seed. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cadet Airman First Class Tanish Patake, and my item was aluminum foil. My hypothesis is that the flight group will be a little stronger than the control group because metals tend to be affected by the environments they are in over time, and aluminum is known to be strong in the cold.
I also worked on a 3D printed parts experiment allowed from Cadet Roger Paul. In the experiment, we sent 2 exactly finished 3D printed parts into high altitudes. Our hypothesis is that when they come back from high altitudes, they'll fit together exactly as they did before. If this works, then we will know that we will be able to use 3D printed components in things like spacecraft and spacesuits. This is because the 3D printed parts will not change in any size and will not change any properties. Thank you. We will know that we will be
Senior Master Sergeant Zing, and my experiment is seeds. So in my experiment, we gathered different kinds of seeds that we are going to send to high altitudes. So the hypothesis for this experiment is to see if it's going to take a longer time or a shorter time to germinate when it came from high altitudes.
I'm Cadet Chief Master Sergeant Gandhi, and my item was litmus paper. My hypothesis is that the litmus paper in the control capsule will remain yellow, and the one in the flight capsule will turn green. This is because from prior testing, we know that water is neutral, and the color on the paper is green. Similarly, when the flight capsule reaches the clouds, water paper will change the color of the paper to green.
Hi, I'm Cadet Second Lieutenant Darsh Shah.
And I'm Cadet Captain Enrico Kulkarni. The use experiment serves as a test of microorganisms' survival in response to conditions in space.
This will be tested by comparing under a microscope to check the cell membrane and wall integrity, cell division, and budding, as well as hydration capabilities of the yeast.
Hi, my name is First Lieutenant Jasmine Singh, and my object is chopstick and Uncle Floor. My hypothesis is that it will turn into a liquid or form into clumps. We will be testing this by looking at the product and also touching it to see if there are any clumps formed. Why are we doing this? We're doing this to see if chopstick can be used in space by astronauts or if any other objects with a similar consistency can be used in space with the astronauts. Thank you.
The cadets of Squadron GLR MI-395 are busy at work deciding what they will do for their high-altitude balloon challenge. Here we can see the cadets brainstorming different ideas. Eventually, they land on an idea to send pieces of metal into space to try to cold weld them. Lots of research was needed in order to figure out just how to accomplish this feat, but eventually they found a way. Here are Cadets Hamilton and Mummy to explain what cold welding is.
Cold welding is a mysterious phenomenon that happens in a vacuum. In this phenomenon, metals are able to weld together without heat.
On Earth, there is a layer of air and oxide that prevents the metal from cold welding.
In space, however, there is no air, making it easier for the metals to fuse.
This metal is indium. Indium has a very unique property. It does not produce an oxide layer surrounding it. This means that when indium goes up into space and the air around the indium is removed, there will be nothing separating indium pieces that are connected, and they will cold weld together. The cadets hypothesize that using indium, they will be able to perform a successful cold weld because the oxide layer of the metal will not exist, and it will just be two pieces of metal touching each other with no air between them.
There we go. All right. All right. So as I say, I can't hear anything. I took my monitors out, but nobody's talking to me, so it's fine. I just got done talking to the mission base. We went through everything there. We are actually going to go ahead. One, I see the viewers kind of dropping quickly now, which makes sense. The majority of the activity is over. We're still probably a little bit from the ground teams being able to be on scene and getting set up to go in. So rather than keep you all here, we're going to go ahead and end the live stream now. When we get all the footage, we'll go ahead. I'm going to look at the camera. I have to look at the screens. We'll go ahead and we'll include that in our end of season videos. Make sure you get to see what the ground teams looked like, what the SUAS drone teams looked like. We'll make sure you see all of that. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. One thing I do want to say is that altitude for the balloons. So we don't have the exacts yet. We think we have roughly the right numbers, but we're going to wait to get the finals. We do know that all three of them went over 90,000 feet. So as we mentioned before, the range for these balloons is somewhere between 65,000 and 100,000 if you're really lucky. We've had, I think, the last 3 years, I think we've had 2 or 3 of them get over 100,000. So that's a special child that goes over 100,000. I think that we are over 90,000 for all three. I think one of them got close to 100,000. I don't think any of them broke 100,000. So no 100,000 award T-shirts this year. But I think we're all pretty close. But they're all over 90. So for your experiments, that's great. That's what we want. If we saw something that was like 65, 70, still great. But anything we can get above that 90 is fantastic. With that, everybody, we are going to end the live stream here. I don't see any other questions. I see a lot of positive comments. Thank you, everybody, for that. There is, I'm just the guy on the screen. There's probably 100+ people that are involved in this thing right now, not counting the cadets and senior members at the units that are doing all the work. So we're talking thousands of people. Then this is a huge AE program. All of you are the ones who make this all worthwhile. So thank you, everybody, very much. And we'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.